Inike Ikolo I Africa. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. You may be seated. Good morning to everyone here in the House on today's formal sitting. Before we proceed, I'd like to remind the members about some of the logistical arrangements. Just a reminder that all the members that are online that are participating virtually and not from the chamber, to ensure you have good data connectivity, good audio and video, and there's no disturbances where you are. And please note that the hybrid system is functioning well. Any poor audio or video is not attributed to the system, but rather than the quality of data connectivity. We also have granted access on MS Teams to our media, and just a reminder to the media and the guests that no members of the press may use the chat room or speak or activate cameras while the sitting is in progress. Honourable members, I'm reminded that no interjections are permitted during the hybrid sittings, and to this end, I draw the honourable members' attention to Rule 40 of the Standing Rules. I will now ask the Secretary to read the first order of the day.
Debate on Vote 1, Premier, Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I recognise the Honourable Premier Wendy.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, to the Honourable Cabinet colleagues and members of this House, to our officials in this government, to members of the media, and of course, I want to say, most importantly, the citizens of this great province, the Western Cape. Deputy Speaker, in my State of the Province address, I emphasised the need for fierce urgency to tackle our most pressing challenges, chief amongst them the energy crisis. This urgency is our North Star, informing our drive to become energy secure, to shield ourselves from the ongoing damaging rolling blackouts. These rolling blackouts are causing our citizens and, of course, our economy to be in grave despair. And, of course, Deputy Speaker, as we move forward in building this province into an adequately and aptly prepared province for the future. Abraham Lincoln once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." This rings true for what the Department of the Premier and the Western Cape government are doing. We are innovating. We are thoroughly preparing ourselves. Deputy Speaker, we are confronting the rolling blackouts with a fierce urgency of now. This is what I emphasized in the SOPA this year. Deputy Speaker, to plot a future that is characterized by hope and prosperity. Speaker, I do this and I say this as we have to deal every single day with an absolutely failed national government. In every aspect, across all of society, we are forever having to pick up the pieces of total failure of the ANC government. Deputy Speaker, at the recent Western Cape water indaba, I spoke of another crisis that could be looming, and that is that of water security. We are a water-scarce province impacted by climate change, and I warned that if we let our guard down, if we fail to prepare ourselves adequately, we will face then twin crises, one of water insecurity as we are at the moment with energy insecurity. Deputy Speaker, I think back to when we averted day zero because of partnerships, working together, and I really think about society, our citizens, and what they did and how they stood up to bring about change. Speaker, at this event, and of course earlier this year in Cabinet, Minister Bradell tabled our 15-year our integrated water resilience plan. This really to understand that while we are focusing on an energy shortfall, at the same time bearing in mind that the next crisis probably will be again one of water. It's interesting that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition mentions lots of plans, because again, this failed ANC government has got zero plans. In actual fact, at this very water conference, where once again...
Order.
At this very conference, surprise, surprise, we get alerted that the Clanwilliam Dam is again delayed. Again delayed. What's going to happen is when we run out of water in the next water crisis and the people say, so where was the plan? What have you done? You can say that at a national level, nothing, zero, nothing, because none of these plans happen at the end of the day. Talk after talk. And if I think about the Clanwilliam Dam, we've got an election coming up. I bet you in the not too distant future, we will be invited to go to another big tent organized outside the dam, dig a spade back in the ground.
Order.
That
Order,
we've
members.
been doing, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Order, members. Honourable Dugmore. Order, members. I can't hear. Thank you.
That again, we will have done now for the fourth time since 2008, when it was first announced that we were going to lift the wall. The province has done its job. We've moved the road. We've implemented all of our sides of the plans years ago already. But since 2008, promise after promise after promise, and nothing happens from this failed ANC government.
Order.
Madam Deputy Speaker, we cannot avoid a drought, but we can avert a scarcity crisis if we plan better and work together, breaking down silos like we are doing with our efforts to address the power crisis. Deputy Speaker, the energy crisis, as devastating as it has been for our economy and our national psyche, is as much of a lesson as it is a disaster. So, Deputy Speaker, coming to this budget, Vote 1. The Department of the Premier's main budget for 2023-24 is a 2.047 billion rand budget. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, we have new money in this budget. And I must thank the Minister of Finance for enabling us in this government to deal with this energy crisis with new money of 1.1 billion rand. That 1.1 billion rand will be used across departments in this government to avert and come up with mitigating plans for the ongoing energy crisis that we face. Of this, 85.6 million rand has been earmarked within this department to respond to the energy crisis through the following interventions, which form the backbone of our energy resilience plan, which is being driven by the Department of the Premier. Deputy Speaker, this will deal with the integrated resource plan. We need to develop our own one because we cannot rely on the national one. It is outdated and it is not giving us the energy that we need, and it is not giving the clarity for investors into the energy that we need.
Order.
When it comes to the demand-side management program, this involves communication programs that raise awareness around power-saving incentives. It is looking at lessons learned from the day zero plans on how we mitigated and became the best in the world when it came to reducing the amount of water used by the citizens in this region. At that stage, Australia held the record of 250 litres per person per day, and we could bring it down, the citizens of this region, to 50 litres per day, still recognized across the world as the best ever. So we need to be doing exactly the same thing around demand-side management. How do we make sure that we reduce our demand in order to make sure that we save power to avert levels of load shedding? Now again, we've done it before, and we will be embarking on a plan to do it again. But, and I raised this on Saturday with our new energy minister, Minister Ramokgopa, who on his visit to this province, coming to have a look at Koeberg, which just like the Clan William Dam delayed, Koeberg now is sitting at 45 days delayed in their program. Now this is a risk for our energy supply in winter because the plan is to bring Koeberg back online so that we can deal with winter and then take the second energy production line of Koeberg down to refuel and refurbish for longer term. But the minister warned us that there's a risk because we are now 45 days delayed. Again, these are big risks that we seem to be facing, whether it's water or electricity. But part of that discussion was, how do we incentivize demand-side management? It doesn't help asking the citizens of this province, please use less energy. And there's no incentive to do so. I raised this at a national level with the President. I've raised it again with the Minister of Energy. We need to look at what those incentives are. And I promise you, the citizens of this province will get up and do it again. We will reduce our usage so that we save not only this province, but South Africa levels of load shedding. I'll tell you what, Honourable Deputy Speaker,
Order.
If the Honourable Leader of the Opposition really wants to understand what that proposal is and get down to detail, I think he should speak to the President or the Minister of Energy, because it's obvious that he doesn't at the moment.
Order, members.
Second of all, Madam Deputy Speaker, emergency load shedding packs. Because while citizens who can afford it are putting inverters into their households, while businesses that can afford it are putting solar panels onto their roofs and battery systems, they are finding other ways of mitigating this disaster. They're putting gas cookers instead of electrical cookers. They are going around all over the place, finding ways to mitigate this absolute disaster of insufficient energy in our system. But there are citizens, the indigent citizens of our province, who are not able to do that. They cannot afford to go and buy an inverter. They cannot afford to put a solar panel on their roof. They cannot afford to put a battery system in their house. And so that is where this load shedding pact will come in, where we will look at how do we provide lighting, how do we provide some form of charging for a cell phone, how do we help with some kind of cooking, heating mechanism. And I must say that we've also had meetings with local government, with mayors, speaking to them about it, to partner with us, as well as business. I had a meeting with Accelerate Cape Town in this last week, and it spoke about exactly this, and there's an exciting movement now where business is saying they will join government, so let's help the indigent in our province with these emergency packs. Then, of course, there's municipal pool buying, because our municipalities, some of them and some of our towns, only use a small amount of power, a few megawatts. But how do we pool the buying? Because to get 5 or 10 or 15 megawatts into a town through a municipal system and a bidding process, that energy is going to be way too expensive. So if we can pool the buying between municipalities, link it to grids, both nationally and locally, link it to those grids, that is going to enable us to get cost-effective energy into the system as quickly as possible to alleviate this absolute crisis that we are all facing. And then, of course, there's the core energy team. And that team comes from the various departments. And those departments, the kind of work that they're doing and how they're all pulling together, I want to thank them very much for what they've done just this year alone, in putting this budget of 1.1 billion together, in getting these plans on the table, in negotiating and engaging across the board, both internationally and locally and at local government level. To address this power crisis effectively, we've had to reallocate funds to offer our citizens dignity and hope amidst a crisis that they have been forced to endure for years. This government will continue to do everything it can to mitigate the impact of load shedding and speed up our energy resilience measures through the whole of government approach. And at that point, Madam Deputy Speaker, what I think I must do is of course, talk about the Energy Council and thank those members specifically from outside of government who come into the council to give us the ideas, to update us on where we are. The last Energy Council, Eskom, gave us a full briefing of exactly what our system looks like in this country, where the risks lie, and how over not just a few months, but over a few years, that risk is going to be here. I want to thank them for coming to us to put the detail on the table. And then, of course, we will keep our citizens abreast of what is happening, and that is the newly launched again weekly Digicons that I've been hosting now. We've had the 4th one already. Again there, local government coming on board, disaster management coming on board, explaining and openly to the public exactly what is happening around this disaster, exactly what we did through the pandemic. And then I must say that I heard a comment from the Honourable Dugmore again, and I know that the last time he had the opportunity, he spoke about not 1 megawatt. And probably that came because it's exactly what I've been saying to the President. In actual fact, where we stand today in South Africa, we have less megawatts than when the President announced that he was taking charge of this energy crisis in our country. But let me say to the Honourable Dugmore, who last time in this House said, but there's not 1 megawatt in this province. And today he just said, what about the MER program? So let me explain to the Honourable Dugmore that beyond generating electricity, the role of the provincial government is to enable the ecosystem for households, businesses and municipalities to generate power. A new space and a new environment. It's not in our constitution. It is not in the provincial mandate, but we are stepping into that space because of absolute failure in the ANC. The number of megawatts that have been generated in the Western Cape so far in wind and solar, I'm talking about the bigger plants that are going into systems, is 1,008 megawatts in the Western Cape. And then in small embedded generation, we're sitting at 197 megawatts of small embedded generation that has been registered to date. And I say registered because in the city of Cape Town alone, we know that there are about 80,000 registered users, and there are thousands of others that are not registered yet or have not joined onto the system. What we also know is that through the MER process and program, the city of Cape Town has recorded 1,040 applications for SSG from January to March this year alone, 600 of them just in February. These are new megawatts coming into the system because of the program set up in this government in energy, which is actually not a mandate of this government. But we all must be prepared, whether it's drought and water or energy, we will step up where others fail. Madam Deputy Speaker, thank you very much to the Minister of Finance and Economic Opportunity, because at the beginning of this year, understanding these risks, we released 88,815,000 rand to municipalities for mitigating the disasters of not having sufficient water or sewage pump capabilities across our municipalities when we have really high levels of load shedding, level 4 to 6. And we've seen what happens to many of the water availability systems across our municipalities when this happens. Our citizens cannot get anything out of the tap. We've got to make sure that we mitigate those risks. Once again, understanding the disaster and the failure from the ANC, but making sure that this government steps up beyond its mandate and makes sure that we are there for the citizens to mitigate the risk. But beyond that, Madam Deputy Speaker, on Saturday, this coming Saturday, the Infrastructure Department will come into existence. And Minister Simmers is leading that new department. We are not only going to be now looking at the building of roads and bridges and homes, but we are going to be looking at building modern, innovative societies, understanding those risks, taking a much stronger role in engaging with national government where they fail to build those water facilities because we know there's a risk coming, and doing whatever is needed to make sure that we are expanding our water system, to do whatever is needed to make sure that we will be stepping into the infrastructure space around energy. We will be stepping into infrastructure that is risky for every single citizen of this province. Wherever it is, it will become our responsibility because of that failed ANC. They can't even muster enough energy to keep the lights on. They can't muster enough energy to keep going as a political party. They are failing the citizens of this country. Madam Deputy Speaker, we will also see on Saturday our new mobility department and the new Minister Ricardo Mackenzie. Having hit the road running
Order.
And hit the road cycling.
Order, members.
A minister in his first week of appointment, mitigating a taxi strike, saving the economy of this province R1 billion, getting involved from day one. Thank you very much, Minister, and I'm looking forward to this new department and the role that this new department's going to play. Again, it's about an innovative government bringing changes to the fore to make sure we get the biggest difference in the interests of our citizens.
Order, members on both sides of the House, please.
Deputy Speaker, while some in our country...
Honourable Windvogel. Honourable members, please. Please take your seat, Premier. Remember, what's your point of order?
No, it's not a point of order. Can the Premier take a question?
Yes, he may. You may proceed.
Does the Premier think that because of his unwarranted national focus, he was unable to give guidance to his party, hence they lost in Barrydale? Lost to the PA in Barrydale.
Okay, thank you very much. Premier, are you willing to answer that? Order, members. Honourable members, please.
When I said yes, I'll take a question, it was the honourable member was like searching for what am I going to ask him.
Order, members.
I would like to say to the honourable member that I think he should put his mind to much bigger things in our country. You know that...
Order, members, if you ask a question, you should be able to listen to the answer.
Exactly. Thank you very
Please,
much, Madam
members.
Deputy Speaker. When this honourable member stands up and asks questions like this, it reminds me of the honourable leader of the opposition yesterday in a political debate in a country where the ANC are totally failing, in a province that is totally succeeding, where we've got an 81 billion rand budget, and they fiddle around with 2 court cases in the whole input from the leader of the opposition. And I wonder about that, and I listen to the question from the Deputy Chief Whip of this failed party, and I think, my goodness, is that all that's left of the ANC? All that's left of the ANC.
Thank you, honourable members. If we can continue, please. Order.
But anyway...
Order,
Madam
members.
Deputy Speaker, when some in our country want to shut down the whole country, if you really want to fight for economic freedom, you need to open up the country. You need to open up the economy. You need to enable people to get to work. And I want to thank all of the SAPS officials, the law enforcement officials, the neighbourhood watchers, and the citizens who continued on Monday despite the threats of looting and the threats of wanting to spark violence and intimidation in our province. Thank you very much to each and every one of you that actually do believe that economic freedom comes from opening up and enabling people to exercise their free choice, to move freely in this province. Speaker, the Department of the Premier's future planning capabilities in the Western Cape, in collaboration with the Provincial Treasury, is but one way we are preparing ourselves for pressures down the line. The aim of this intervention is to create strategic foresight capacity in the Western Cape Government to ensure that service delivery needs can be anticipated and consequently planned and budgeted for. The additional allocation of 15.5 million rand towards this capability is welcomed. Again, something new and something about thinking about the future. I've mentioned it before, and that we do not spend enough time planning and thinking about the future. And the lessons that we've learned in our own interactions with the Futures Department at Stellenbosch, but also with Helsinki, understanding that they themselves table 100-year plans at the same time as they table their 5-year strategic plans. We need to start spending more time thinking about that future that we are all moving towards. Deputy Speaker, at the foundation of our work are our priorities: jobs, energy, resilience, safety, dignity, well-being. For this, we are building our province into a destination of choice, not only for our people who choose to relocate their lives here so as to seek out opportunities and hope, but also for investment in our economy and our collective future. We cannot afford to underestimate what the future holds in store for us. To this end, we are preparing now for that future. You know that our preparation says that in 2030 our population will be at 8 million. But getting the detail and data from Minister Bradell's office, thinking about the pressure that Minister Mbombo's department is on, or Minister Mania's department is on, by the growth in population in our province, that 8 million, or the 126,000 citizens that moved to this province last year, that 8 million is going to be achieved far earlier than 2030. And one can see it in the data and the numbers. When you saw the jobs numbers come out in this country for the last quarter up to December, the mind boggles. 169 million new jobs in South Africa up until December of that quarter. 169,000. I apologize. I wish it was million. 169,000 new jobs in the whole of South Africa. 167,000 of those jobs in this province alone. In all of the other provinces put together, all run by the ANC, only 2,000 jobs to the positive. Scandal. This province passes more plans than Gauteng. We are 15% of South Africa's economy. Gauteng is 35% of South Africa's economy. We pass more plans. But we don't just pass more plans, we build more by value than Gauteng. Let's not even talk about the other provinces. We heard the opposition leader saying, what about the safety plan? Again, the one province where in the murder hotspots the numbers come down, only in this province, nowhere else, where the ANC is in charge, they keep on going up. The province that builds more classrooms than anywhere else, 4 times faster than ever before, the province that was building a school for 500 learners in 60 days in this province. New hospitals. And I could go on and on. It is this province versus the rest of South Africa where it is all run by the ANC and failing the citizens of this country dismally.
Premier, just take a seat, please.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the members on the opposite side on constant contravention of Rules 30 and 40. Can you please rule accordingly? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Van Voorgel and Honourable Barnes. Okay, but I do know that there's ongoing interjections. So we don't mind interjections, but not ongoing conversations on both sides of the House. If I can ask the Premier to continue, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And while mentioning safety, I'd like to say that late last week, I had an opportunity to meet with IPID. Nearly 6 months after Judge Tulare announces that there is infiltration by gangs into our top police officers. Nearly 6 months later, IPID comes to meet with me, and they say, what should our terms of reference be for this investigation? I welcome that they are now investigating this issue. When you see photographs of gangsters sitting in the anti-gang unit's cars, or gangsters being shown through police precincts during load shedding, how many gangsters have been arrested since the establishment of the anti-gang unit by the President 5 years ago?
Order, members.
But, Deputy Speaker, getting back to this budget, the department's determination to put citizens first, we are seeing additional funds of 10 million, 12 million and 15 million over the allocated period, or the MTF period, going to the Western Cape Government e-centres. This is to increase access to information and technology, to enable digital skills development opportunities, and to connect citizens with opportunities, particularly educational and job opportunities. An exciting innovation in this space is the opening of 2 mobile e-centres to reach deep rural sites where it is not feasible to establish a brick and mortar facility, and to create a footprint in the City of Cape Town metro area with a specific focus on the provincial hotspots. An additional allocation of 4 million, 5 million and 6 million over the MTF for the department. This is cybersecurity strategy to compromise the around 26 or compromises of around 26 initiatives. A 3-year roadmap is developed for the period 22-23 and 24-25, and it is prioritized based on the critical need for the capability and existing technology investments that can be leveraged and become an invaluable resource. The Western Cape Government Broadband provides services to just over 1,900 sites now, which include all Western Cape Government facilities, and to certain municipal buildings such as libraries, Tusong centres and Cape Access centres. Another data point which is really interesting is that on a single day in South Africa, more data runs through our education system in the Western Cape than run through every single other education system in all other provinces put together. And that just also tells you that over time, you will also see a broadening of the difference between whether DA governs and whether ANC governs. So, Madam Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to thank the officials in this government and the officials in the Department of the Premier for working day and night. And it doesn't matter whether it's a legal issue, they work through the night sometimes, whether it's a risk analysis from our team, whether it's dealing with HR matters, whether it is the way that we offer shared services, the responsiveness. I really want to say to the officials in this government, thank you very much. I really do appreciate every single thing that you do. We've got to be leading from the front. We've got to be innovating, and we've got to be taking this budget in the best interests of every single citizen in this province to make sure that we get results, because everything that we do in this province is about building hope, and everything that we do in this province is not only about the citizens of this province, but it's about this country, South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. I now recognise the Honourable Doug Moore.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, in the January the 8th statement of the African National Congress adopted this year, we resolved that what we need is decisive action in the interests of the people, and that we need to renew this organization. And that organization, which has helped liberate our country, stabilize this country, and begun to develop prosperity, and has a record of housing delivery, of access to education, which is in fact the best in the world in terms of the time available. The issue, however, the fact that we are talking about decisive action and also renewal goes to the fact that our movement, the African National Congress, also acknowledges that in this period of governance, there have been mistakes made, and that the renewal of the organization is what we are busy with. The fact, as one of our honorable members, Syed, indicated now, that the African National Congress won the Barrydale ward, and that also latest opinion polls are beginning to say that the ANC is turning the corner. And only a perception can only exist if it's based on some reality. And whether the Premier of this province wants to acknowledge it and talks about a failed state, the reality is that issues of state capture, which happened in a particular period, actually predate democracy. And it is that, particularly in the context of Eskom, that we also need to consider as we seek solutions. The reality is that companies in this country had 30 to 40-year sweetheart deals to supply coal to Eskom, way before the post-democratic leadership. Those contracts effectively benefited the particular companies that actually funded and supported the National Party. And if one fails to look at that history, one is actually missing the point. One cannot deny that our president has
Order members on the
overseen
right side.
a dramatic increase in the services provided by the South African Revenue Service. SARS is a very different place than it was 5 years ago. The National Prosecuting Authority has been strengthened. The SIU is clearly working without fear or favor, and we have even seen, in regard to the letter that we wrote to the SIU 2 years ago, now we are beginning to see the arrest of corrupt officials in Cape Town, in the City Housing Maintenance Department, and it is a cesspool of corruption. So the SIU has been strengthened, the Hawks have been strengthened, and anyone who wants to talk about a failed state, the Premier stands up here and he says, we fixed the roads in Clanwilliam. The Premier mustn't mislead the House. The South African National Roads Agency did that. And if you look at the roads in our country, that is the responsibility of the national government. Anyone who wants to say that this country is a failed state, in fact, Deputy Speaker, the Premier is beginning to sound like Rob Hersov. Rob Hersov is someone who stands up and wants to slag the country, create and instill fear. And I want to say to the Premier, you must be cautious of projecting a climate of fear and the fact that this country is failing. The fact that tourists still come, not only to our province, but increasingly to the Kruger Park, increasingly to the Eastern Cape and many, is a fact that not only is it a good deal for them to come here, but they actually trust our country. And when the Premier of this province stands up, mouthing on about failed states, he's actually contributing to a narrative that is bad for this country. Be honest, yes, but don't actually mislead people and instill fear. The Premier spent quite a lot of his speech today, Deputy Speaker, talking about energy. Now, the reality is that in this country, we have an energy mix. That energy mix includes coal. Over 90% of current coal supplies, much as the availability factor has been reduced, and that must be acknowledged. We have nuclear, we have hydro, we have renewables in the form of solar and wind, and there's also increasingly geothermal. Now, I want to put it on record here today that for some members on the other side, they want to create a hero out of Andre de Ruyter. The facts are beginning to emerge that instead of focusing on the 6 coal power stations which are required to up the energy availability factor, Mr. de Ruyter spent his time simply talking about renewables, engaging in trying to facilitate international loans, not grants. And in that way, if you look at, and the ANC government does actually have an energy plan which we're busy implementing. You talked about plans through this, Deputy Speaker, but you didn't actually mention what you mentioned categories, but you didn't say what you're going to do. And the first key thing that our energy minister is doing is to ensure that the 4,000 megawatts that we have lost because of the fact that 6 power stations are not working, that is the focus. That is the focus, and we must avoid
Honourable
the denialism or the proposition that renewables are going to be able to be provided quickly enough to solve this particular problem. So this particular plan talks about, obviously, Eskom has had 10 different CEOs in the last 11 years. That's totally unacceptable. We know that. But the reality is, and we know that there are syndicates which have managed to intervene in the coal market, in the coal supply, that has damaged with subgrade coal our power stations. And that is something that we're aware of. We are in support of private investment into new generation capacity. But it's a pity that MEC Bradell is not here, but I see the colleagues on local government are here. What this energy plan that the Premier talks about, firstly, they must acknowledge that in 2020, they announced the Municipal Energy Resilience Plan 3 years ago. They didn't actually involve local government. We were in the committee the other day, and they had to concede that they were not involved. No surprise that over the 100 million that was spent on that did not produce a single megawatt. But the real issue for sustainability, no, I'm talking about your
Order.
Municipal, right, not one. So now the issue is this. If municipalities, and I would like the Premier to pay attention to this, if municipalities rely on the resale of electricity for their sustainability, and we know that that's the case, there is no thinking that we are hearing from the Honourable Premier to say, what is the sustainability going to be of local governments if they are not actually able to resell, as they're currently doing from mainly Eskom? That is a huge financial challenge, honourable members. And our honourable member, America, he's dealing with the local government. This is an issue that we need to look at, because the Premier's plan doesn't tell us how much that electricity is going to cost. He doesn't talk about what is the impact on local government sustainability. Member Moran, Member Bunce, Member Minford, all have been in local government. They will tell you how much the municipalities rely on electricity. So we're going off now, but we don't have the figures worked out about the future sustainability. That might require re-looking at the financial and fiscal commission plans. But you have to be aware of that. Don't pretend to people, through the Deputy Speaker, that this will simply resolve itself. You have to plan for that. And your own officials in your own department are saying that the Premier and them are blindsided about this. You're not actually talking. They're actually telling us that you're not actually talking about the future sustainability of local government. And I think that's an issue. Then the reality is this province, in terms of energy, you're talking about safety packs, energy safety packs for the poor. But why don't you just address one thing? When a person from Mitchell's Plain or Khayelitsha or Witzenberg wants to buy 100 rand of electricity, when they go to that municipality, they only get 20 rand or so because they have a water account that is outstanding. So in fact, that would help thousands of people. How many energy packs are you actually going to give? The real solution lies, and MEC Bradell is not here now. He is not giving us the actual legal opinion because we would argue that that is against the indigent policy. So for poor people, and you talk about water, the reality is, why can a poor person only get 10 rand or 20 rand worth of electricity when they pay 100 rand? That is what is, it's nothing else, but that 100 rand could have bought. No, how much does it, for a poor family, 100 rand buys a huge amount of electricity. You say it's nothing. Not for a poor person.
Honourable Dugmore, Honourable Dugmore, talk to me.
Not for a poor
person. Order members.
So the reality is, the Premier also talked about water.
Order members, I can't hear Honourable Dugmore.
The Premier also talked about water, Deputy Speaker. This Premier must explain to the House what happened to the desalination plants in the so-called day zero days. How much was spent? Does he know about corruption there? Does he know about the assassination of a particular person that happened related to this? The City of Cape Town needs to explain. None of those desalination plants are working. Not a single one. Millions, hundreds of millions were spent. And now you're talking about day zero. Please, Deputy Speaker, the Premier needs to be honest and not to mislead the people. He also ended his speech, the Honourable Premier ended his speech about the amount of Wi-Fi activity in our schools. Why is it then that the Western Cape has, over the last 4 years, actually failed to be number one in regard to matric? So you talk about Wi-Fi connectivity in schools, but the results in this province under MEC Schaefer have gone down and down and down. But worse than that for me is the fact that our province has the lowest number of learners signing up for maths on the higher grade and science. Do you know why, Deputy Speaker? It's because this government doesn't have the political will to actually get maths and science teachers into our schools. What future do we want for our children from Mitchell's Plain, Bonteheuwel? We want them to be scientists, but when you don't actually offer those subjects, lower than KZN, lower than the Eastern Cape, you should be ashamed of yourself, because that's actually the quality that you are denying the majority of children in this province. Yesterday, Honourable Premier spoke about safety. Yesterday, we made it clear that the City of Cape Town is giving housing contracts to the families of gangsters. When there's not a contract awarded like in Delft, a construction worker is being killed every week. Now you nod your head. That's all you do. What are you doing about that corruption and the influence of gangs in one of the local governments run by the DA? You're not doing anything. MEC Allen is looking at me. He knows the situation. So when are you actually going to be open about this relationship that exists between certain officials and politicians in the City of Cape Town and organized gangs? They just simply demand, we want 10% of this. If you're not giving us 10%, we don't mind who builds. We're going to start taking people out. That's what's happening. And you nod and you so on, but you come and talk to us about energy and R1 billion. But what about the safety of the children and the young people in our province. And then the last point before getting into the actual speech. You talk about 5 million for Tafelberg. You talk about 5 million for Tafelberg. But the real issue is that you made a choice. The Premier, Deputy Speaker, and Helen Zille, despite that Human Settlements wanted to use Tafelberg. They had a formal proposal, use Tafelberg for social housing. Instead, they were lobbied by certain private interests, and they offered to sell that. Former member Leonard Max helped to also us to expose that. That building is still available. Domestic workers in Sea Point have saved up for years to get accommodation, but still, you spend 5 million trying to block the use of Tafelberg for social housing. That is a disgrace, and it shows the ideological anti-poor approach of this DA provincial government. It's not surprising that the people of Barrydale rejected the DA. And Premier Windy, you know very well that Helen Zille took the side of the mayor. She ignored Mr. Pokwas and others and believed them. And that reaction against the DA was about budgets, because those members wanted to work with our members to make a change in Swellendam. Helen Zille, and we really hope that you re-elect her. We really hope that you re-elect her at your national conference, because she's destroying your party. She's actually she's moving you further and further to the right. So any social democrats amongst you don't have a place, if there are social democrats. I thought at one stage, Honourable Kondo, that Premier Windy described himself as a social democrat. So Helen Zille, please elect her, because that will just add to your decline. Speak to the people of Barrydale. But one Friday soon, our province will remember the 329th anniversary of the arrival. Sorry?
30 seconds.
Beg your pardon?
30 seconds.
Did I have 16 minutes?
No, yes,
I'm
you did.
supposed to have 16 minutes.
Just stop the time. I don't want the. I'm still going to go on 30. So
Is it, how much is it?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
You've been
well,
speaking.
Deputy Speaker, I needed to respond to the Premier, but this speech is going to be given free of charge to all of you. You will be able to read it and internalize it. And I will also write.
Order members, I can't hear.
Article.
Honourable Bartman. Honourable Bartman. Honourable Bartman. 1 minute. I'm going to continue to close this time.
Concluding in 30 seconds. The African National Congress is committed to decisive action.
Order.
In the interest of the people and to renew the ANC. Don't undermine the ANC's ability to renew itself and to actually lead the people of the country. That is what we will do. And I'll also write a lead article about this speech so that you can all read it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Doug Moore. Honourable members, order please. I note that Honourable Klaas has issued his apologies, so we'll move straight over to the Honourable Fry.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, Premier, Cabinet members, and honourable members of this House, and most importantly, to the citizens of the Western Cape. Recently, I attended a Christmas band competition. It's a time-honoured, integral part of the culture of our province. Many of the bands have a long history of service to their various communities, and while the competition across the various categories is fierce, the spirit of camaraderie and friendship among the choirs is palpable. It even extended to the supporters in the stands. Now, in every band, there are different roles that every member plays in order to make the band what it is. I would venture to say, though, that the most important person of all is the drum major. The drum major is the standard bearer of the band. He or she is the person leading the band in the march, wielding the baton or a mace, showing the direction and the rhythm to which the band has to march to. The person always marches and leads from the front, shows and commands respect from the band, demonstrates initiative, drives enthusiasm, and ultimately gives the band every chance to deliver their best performance at all times. The drum major must be competent, be accountable, have integrity, be responsive, be caring, and be innovative. An effective drum major is the conduit for excellence. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this budget tabled before us today and headed by the Department of the Premier is the drum major that will lead us to excellence. For this vote, the budget has increased by 13.4%, or 241 million rand, from 1.8 billion rand to 2 billion rand, with an equitable share funding increasing by nearly 11%, from 1.59 billion rand to 1.68 billion rand. Further to this, the Provincial Revenue Fund financing has increased by 284 million to 360 million, an increase of 26.5%. This shows that this government is serious about serving the people of the Western Cape with excellence. To demonstrate this further, I would like to focus on 3 programs that outline the seriousness of serving the people. Honourable Deputy Speaker, when looking at governance within the department, this budget is geared for improved performance, especially in the financial management sub-program. The Financial Management Capacitation Plan, which involves proactive initiatives to prevent irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, is evidence of this. Ultimately, this will strengthen governance and accountability. 101.9 million is set aside for this program. Secondly, Honourable Deputy Speaker, as far as the provincial strategic management is concerned, the focus will be the provincial strategic implementation plan. The pillars of this plan are growth for jobs, safety, well-being and innovation, culture, and governance. Underpinning these pillars are interventions that are data-led and evidence-informed. This data-led approach is informed by the lessons learned during the management of the COVID-19 pandemic, while being responsive to business and public demand. In order to do this, the department will build strategic partnerships across the data industry, as well as a continued use of the Provincial Data Office. Under this program, the Commissioner for Children will continue its work of promoting and protecting the rights and interests of children in this province. To this end, 13.3 million is budgeted for this office for the 23-24 financial year. And Honourable Deputy Speaker, what would this budget be if again we didn't speak about the provision made for dealing with the energy crisis that is threatening our very existence? To this end, this government is leading from the front, showing initiative and driving enthusiasm by focusing on the following areas. Demand-side management, where 9.7 million has been allocated in this year to, among others, drive an energy-saving campaign, incentivize the use of energy-efficient products and services by the public, and pilot a load management system to assist in managing peak demand times. 60 million will be used to procure and distribute emergency load-shedding packs to poor households that need them. Municipal pooled buying, which seeks to establish a business case for multi-jurisdictional municipal pooled procurement of renewable energy, 3.3 million is budgeted for this, and 7.5 million is budgeted for a Western Cape integrated resource plan, which will seek to estimate the energy demand. Finally, Honourable Speaker, I'd like to highlight the Centre for E-Innovation. This is a vital part of increasing broadband access to all our citizens, as well as expanding the Cape Access E-Centre's footprint in the province, strengthening cybersecurity across all Western Cape government departments, and building a new platform to replace the current portal. This will show the government's desire to lead from the front in offering our citizens a world-class digital service, as well as safeguarding our department's online presence in protecting our systems and users from, among others, ransomware attacks. 1.378 billion has been allocated to this program, of which 555 million in this financial year has been allocated to the Broadband 2.0 project, which will address the termination of existing broadband service agreements on 1 October 2024 by maintaining the current nearly 2,000 Western Cape government sites that have connectivity, as well as the 1,424 Wi-Fi hotspots that provide free data to our people to the value of 6 gigabytes per person per month. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition says that his party is on a drive to decisive action and renewal, stating that the SIU, SARS, Eskom, the Hawks, and NPA, amongst others, are being renewed. The question we have to ask is, after 29 years, why do they need renewal? Honourable Speaker, in closing, as I've previously stated, the drum major is the standard bearer of the band. This person provides the direction for the band to follow as to which excellence is the goal. This budget is the standard bearer. This budget will lead our people, all our people, to a better tomorrow. This budget is for you. The DA supports this vote. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Fry. I now recognise the Honourable Premier Windy. Order, members.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and thank you very much to the members contributing. I'll start actually with the chair of the committee because the Leader of the Opposition has probably just stepped out for a while. So, there he is. Saeed can maybe just move forward. If the real leader of the ANC will just take up his seat in the front, you can leave the Honourable Dugmore in the back benches. But I will still remain with the chairperson. Chair, thank you very much, first of all, for the role that you play as the chair of this standing committee, for enabling the discussions and the processes of getting to a budget and getting to a debate like this, where we are passing a budget that's in the interests of the people and, as you say, for you, the citizen. Thank you for that role. Thank you for the interactions. Thank you for pushing where it needs to be pushed or tweaking where it needs to be tweaked. We really do appreciate that, and the role that you play in the standing committee. Then to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, maybe before I get there, which I've written here on the top of my sheet here, is it Felokazi? Felokazi. Thank you very much for joining us. I believe that you're a shadow law student from UCT, shadowing the Deputy Chief Whip. Be welcome here. I really am encouraged because we need more people to understand not only just law that happens outside, but the laws that get made, get passed, the budgets that get passed in this House and get signed into law that eventually ends up changing the lives of citizens in this province. But you are more than welcome.
Apologies, Honourable Dugmore.
Sorry, just a point of order, Deputy Speaker. I noticed that the Premier was talking directly to a member of the gallery, but I would also like to say to that young student in the gallery that it's better to do your internship with the ANC. We'll give you a broader perspective, so you can come. I've got an LLB. I've got an LLB myself.
Thank you, Honourable Dugmore. That's not a point of order. Order, members. Honourable members, I'm going to, that concludes the debate on this vote. Thank you very, very much.
There was a point of order in the middle of my speech.
No, oh, you haven't finished, Premier. My terrible apologies. That was a point of order in the middle of your speech. Honourable Dugmore, you threw me there for a second. Premier, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy
apologies.
Speaker. You can rule that wasn't a point of
order. That wasn't a point of order for the record.
It was a speech from a member who should know better. So I promise you won't learn anything from the ANC. They don't even know how to make points of order. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, in reaction to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition's input into this budget debate, I noticed that he tabled his speech. He even said at no cost. So one wonders if normally he charges for his speeches to be put out there into the public domain. But I think we all noticed that he never said one word about the budget. So, I'll get to the details that he raised because, of course, he was speaking about something that is really serious in our country and in our province. He spoke about the ANC's renewal, which is a renewal from their demise, which is where our country finds itself. And that is why we have to spend so much time talking about energy and water, which is what he focused on, because the ANC have failed this country totally when it comes to energy and water, let alone everything else that they've failed us with. And so, he had to speak about the renewal of the ANC because of their failure. He also spent some time speaking about ending corruption. But then he went off about justifying corruption almost because of what happened in the apartheid years. And so we need to blame the apartheid years to why in this window period of the ANC rule we've got so much corruption. That is unacceptable. Corruption is corruption, and that is a key part of why we find ourselves in a position that we find ourselves as South Africa today. I also want to say that he again said not 1 megawatt. And I will say I agree, not 1 megawatt, but 197 megawatts.
Which grid?
And he spoke about, now he changes the question of grid, but I'll tell you which grid it is in as well.
Order.
So it's not 1 megawatt, it's 197. He obviously didn't listen to me when I was speaking earlier. But the municipal, or the MER initiative, the Municipal Energy Resilience Program, delivered through DDAT in this province, was focused on lower carbon generation in the Western Cape, and the utility scale projects in 2020 was 558 megawatts, and in 2021 it adds up now in 2020, and now in 2023 that adds up to 1,008 megawatts in utility scale energy going into a mixture of Eskom grid and municipal grid. Then the work that DDAT and Green Cape were both involved in those projects delivering the 1,008 megawatts. And then, of course, there is the small-scale embedded generation, which is only in municipal grids, and that is the 197 megawatts that I spoke about that goes into the City of Cape Town's grid. Of that, 130 megawatts comes from the Energy Game Changer. Now at 197 megawatts, that is the 1,040 applications added to the 1,097 megawatts, which will now exponentially take that up, of which 600 were just in February, but the 1,040 applications, this is only in the City of Cape Town for 2023. So these are not 1 megawatt, these are many, many megawatts, which is way in excess of the megawatts that the President has enabled into our system from the day that he took over as Deputy President, and making that announcement so many, many years ago that load shedding will become a thing of the past. Then also to say to the honourable member, he spoke about local government financing. And absolutely that is a big issue. Last week, in engaging with the mayors, there is a team put together now to go and have a look at, between Treasury, local government, to go and have a look at what does this new system look like. But it's not as if just last week that happened. Minister Bredell has been engaging through our PECs, provincial committees, where we have all the municipal managers and all the mayors present, on designing and looking at a new financing system. Because our municipalities, when we are not able to generate income from the sale of electricity, because so many of these megawatts that are coming on board are not enabling them to buy in power and resell it. But not totally so, because many of these cases where, for example, the City of Cape Town is buying in power, they might be paying a small incentive to enable it, but in actual fact they still will be able to sell and wheel that power to other users. But it is a real question that he asks, the sustainability of our municipalities because of their financial model. Some of our municipalities making between 18 and 20% of their income from the sale of electricity. And those systems are going to go away, and they've got to find ways in which to continue to generate income, especially those households and businesses that are going off grid. Because what they are saying now is, why should we even pay an availability charge? And I get that. It's a great question. But at the same time, they've also got to understand that when you leave your driveway and you go down the road and there's a street light outside, or there's a public building with electricity in it, or a service that runs on electricity like a water pump or a sewage pump, that also still has to be paid for. Whether it's energy that you're using in your household, which is one thing, but energy that is used in a municipality in the best interests of all citizens also has to be paid for somehow. But there definitely is work being done, and we need to look at that new system, that new financial system. The Honourable Dugmore also raises an issue with desalination plants, and I gather that he's speaking about the 2 desalination plants in the city of Cape Town that have been decommissioned. I gather those are the 2 plants that you're speaking about. Of course, they're not the only plants in the Western Cape, and of course they were decommissioned, because bearing in mind that desalination is very, very expensive. But of course, those desalination plants, like the one in Hessequa, which is still operational, the one in Mossel Bay, which is still operational. Unfortunately, the one in Lambert's Bay is not operational. We're trying to get it back on stream, but of course, that is because of the ANC government in that municipality, who really did not enable that commissioning properly of that.
Technology.
Even Siri knows that they failed in Lambert's Bay with their energy system. And then perhaps a last point.
Order.
And then, Deputy Speaker, perhaps a last point on that. And that is the plan at the moment in the city of Cape Town, and if any of the, and I know the Standing Committee was invited to the 2-day water workshop. I don't know if anybody from the ANC came to the workshop. Probably not.
Order,
Madam
members.
Deputy Speaker, I know for certain that the Standing Committee was invited, because the other Standing Committee members were there. It's probably the ANC that don't read their emails, but you would have heard about not only innovation in water, but you would have heard about the recycling plant that's being put in place now in the city of Cape Town. And this is a massive investment on recycling of current water usage within our systems. And this is critical, because going forward in a water-stressed environment, we're going to have to be recycling more and more of our water. We cannot just use water once through a system, goes out, goes through a sewage plant, and then disappears. We have to be able to recycle that water over and over again. Many, many countries around the world reuse it 5, 6, and 7 times. And we're going to have to be going down that same route. And the first one, which is going to be one of the biggest recycling plants of water on the African continent, is being planned right now for the city of Cape Town. And these are the kind of innovations that are going to have to become commonplace around all of our municipalities. And again, not only electricity that's going to put financial pressure on the financial models at our municipalities, but our water systems. And the cost of water is also going to put huge pressure on the economies and the financial systems of our municipalities. With that, Madam Deputy Speaker, thanks to those that are supporting the budget. We really need to make sure that these budgets are supported, passed in the best interests for you, the citizens of this province. Thank you very much to everybody who took part. And once again, thank you very much to the department and to my office, who are there to support me and make sure that we get this work done. We have got so many challenges in our country, and so many more that our province has to take on every day, that our systems are not working because of other failures in other parts of the mandate of provinces where national issues should be delivered, and they are not. And we will take them head on. We will find ways to scrape together budgets. And so to our full team, thank you. And then last of all, to the ministers and the members who in each of our departments make sure that these budgets get pulled through in the best interests of the citizens of our province. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. That brings us to the end of the Premier's vote. Honourable members, we're going to suspend the House for about two minutes, just to make sure that everybody all Minister Mayor's guests are in the House and seated. I will assess. Minister Mayor, maybe is your HOD and your department coming through? Yes, so we will suspend for a few minutes. The House is suspended. Right, thank you very much. Before we begin, I would like to wish Minister Mayor a very, very happy birthday today on his vote speech. May this be a wonderful day for you, Minister Mayor. The Secretary will now read the second order of the day.
Debat oor begrotingspos 11, Landbou, Wes-Kaapse begrotingswetsontwerp.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I now recognize the Honourable Minister Mayor.
Honourable Premier, Honourable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Honourable members of the Cabinet of the Western Cape, leaders of the official opposition, Honourable members of the legislature, special guests, the media present here today, councillors, executive mayors, diplomats present here today, and very importantly, the industry representing agriculture. I'm particularly happy that we have here today Professor Dani van Meulen from the Free State University. I'm particularly happy that we also have Mr. Heini de Tooit, the Vice President of Agri-Western Cape, as well as the Casidra Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Keith du Plessis. Very happy to have also in the House Mr. Christo van der Rede, Chief Executive Officer of Agri South Africa, and thank you for your work. And also pioneers of land reform in South Africa, Mr. Lennox Plaatjes from Pelt, and Mr. Gerrit van Vieren. Thank you for your presence, Dr. von Schlicht as well, and Saki Franken. Very important for me, members representing the agricultural sector. Thank you, Anton Kruger from the Fresh Produce Organization, and thank you, our diplomats, and particularly also our farmers and our winemakers here in the gallery. Achtbare Speaker, ek gebruik graag hierdie geleentheid om my spesiale gas by die Wes-Kaapse wetgewer te verwelkom. Met haar kenmerkende kappie draai sy haar roosterkoeke behendig om. Sy is een van Lensburg se bekendste inwoners en haar stalletjie lok toeriste en reisigers van oral. Achtbare adjunkspreker, ek is geëerd. Hierdie huis is geëerd om die legendariese Tannie Poppy van Lensburg vandag hier in die huis te verwelkom. Ek salueer Tannie Poppy, want sy bring die Karoo sy eenvoud in hierdie huis. En met daardie eenvoud maak sy meervoud. Sy het Lensburg op die map geplaas, maar so was sy ook in Italië. En vandag is sy hier in die Wes-Kaapse parlement. Tannie Poppy, 7 miljoen inwoners van die Wes-Kaap kyk op na u hier in die Wes-Kaap. Ons salueer u vir die bydrae wat u gelewer het vir landelike gemeenskappe, vir landelike vroue. En ek wil my dank en waardering uitspreek teenoor Aletta Teron, wat al die moeite gedoen het om Tannie Poppy te vervoer, al die pad van Lensburg tot hier in die parlement. Dankie ook aan my vriend en collega Noko Masipa van die nasionale parlement, wat ook vandag hier teenwoordig is. Honorable Deputy Speaker, in his speech during the SOPA on the 16th of February this year, Premier Ellen Winde called for urgency and a vigorous and positive action. Honorable Deputy Speaker, no sector understands better the urgency of the now than the agricultural sector. This is because the sector deals with what we describe as the envelope of the possible, the land, the water, and the climate. The magic happens when we bring together land, water, climate, and people, mixed with the skills and the market access, with the technology and the capital. Achtbare adjunkspreker, op 'n baie basiese vlak verstaan ons almal dat daar 'n tyd is om te saai en daar is 'n tyd om te oes. Dit is om hierdie rede dat die bekroonde graanboer, Alfreda Mars, wat vandag hier by ons aansluit, weet sy is in die wintergraanboerdery gebied. Daarom kan sy nie net in Julie eers begin saai nie. Sy verstaan ook dat sy gemengde boerdery moet toepas om winsgewend te wees in die bedryf. Om die rede is hy 'n graanboer en ook 'n skaapboer. Eenvoudig maar diepsinnig. Ek vra Alfreda Mars om op te staan hier in die huis. Honourable Speaker, faced with the envelope of the possible, another element is present in the agricultural sector. It is the power of hope. In Xhosa, it means ithemba. But in Xhosa, it not only means hope, it also means trust. And we put our trust in our farmers, our producers, and our agri-workers, because there is power in hope. Honourable Deputy Speaker, agriculture has been at the forefront of the economic recovery in the Western Cape. South Africa must succeed, and this product of the Western Cape must be exported so that we have success all over South Africa. That's my dream. This is my country. This is what I love. We shall do it together. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Deputy Speaker, agriculture has been at the forefront of economic recovery. Agriculture will continue to inspire hope through growth, through jobs, and through responding to the urgency of now. Agbara Jung Speaker, landbouhoop beskaam nie. Die krag van landbouhoop word versterk deur onder andere die sektor se handelsprestasie en sy bydrae tot indiensname wat reeds gedokumenteer is in hierdie huis. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I feel the fears of urgency. I feel the fears of the now. The Premier coined it resilience and let's do things now. The crisis is deep, the poverty is deeper, and people need hope. And we as public representatives must be the instruments and the injection of hope. Thank you, Tani Poppy, that you are the injection of hope, not only in the Karoo, but in the whole of South Africa. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I felt this urgency when I met with Jannie Strydom. Today is represented by Heine de Toit here today, the CEO of Agri-SA, Agri-Western Cape, when I met with him and the President, Philia Loubser. They spoke to me about the devastating impact of the electricity crisis and the blackouts on the harvest, on the irrigation, and on the cold storage. I felt it when I met Anton Kruger, the Chief Executive Officer of the Fresh Produce Export Forum. He told me about how exporters, challenges they experience specifically as a result of the war in Ukraine. I felt it when I met with Justin Chadwick, the Chief Executive Officer of Citrus South Africa, and his colleagues when they spoke to me about the inefficiencies at the harbour and the ports. I recently met them also here in Cape Town and also in another province. I felt it when I visited Nooit Gedag Farmers Trust, a commercial egg production enterprise in Atlantis. There's urgency because load shedding significantly impacted on the profitability of the small-scale enterprise. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I am honoured today to table a budget of 960 million rand to Western Cape's three strategic objectives, namely jobs, safety, well-being and dignity. And I want to thank my cabinet colleagues that are leading the jobs cluster, Honourable Minister Marais Wegner, the Minister of Finance. I want to congratulate and thank the Minister, Ellen Regan, who's pioneering the work of the safety cluster. And I'm deeply thankful and honored by the work of Minister Sarna Fernandez for the work that she is doing in the well-being cluster. And that is driving my budget that I present today. But Honourable Deputy Speaker, I also have 5 ministerial priorities that is in the engineering compartment of my budget, namely structured training and education and research. Nothing happens in agriculture without solid research. Support to my farmers, rural safety, market access, and very critically, the impact of climate change. Honourable Deputy Speaker, what is the economic performance of this sector? Honourable Deputy Speaker, agriculture and agri-processing contribute 11% to the GDP of this province. The quarterly labour force survey, quarter 4 statistics of 2022, highlighted that the agricultural sector employed 227,893 workers in the Western Cape, and the agri sector, and particularly the agri-processing sector, also employed 236,000 workers in the same quarter. Combined, Honourable Deputy Speaker, both primary agriculture and secondary agriculture, the agricultural sector are contributing to 426,000 jobs in the Western Cape. Now this, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is 78,000 more than the same quarter in the previous year, and 105,000 more for agri-processing in the same year in the previous terms. And so, Honourable Deputy Speaker, this means that agricultural sector employed 16.2% of the total number employed in the agricultural sector. Honourable Deputy Speaker, agriculture is inspiring hope through growth, employment, and responding to the urgency of the now. Agbare Speaker, hoe lyk die uitvoerprestasies? En ek is baie bly om te sien dat beide distrikburgemeester van die Kaapse Wynland, Dr. von Schlicht is in die huis, as ook die distrikburgemeester van Overberg, want daardie 2 streke speel 'n betekenisvolle rol in die uitvoerbedryf hier in die Wes-Kaap. Agbare Speaker, ek is die hoof landbou-ekonoom, Wandile Sislobo skryf dat Suid-Afrika se uitvoere in 2022 verlede jaar 'n nuwe rekord van 12,8 miljard rand bereik het. So it is 12.8 billion US dollar. That is phenomenal. That's growth. That's offering hope. That's responding to the sense of urgency. And that is 4% higher than the previous year. Goeie nuus vir die Wes-Kaap is dat mielies, wyn, tafeldruiwe, citrus, bessies, neute, appels, pere, suiker, avokado en selfs wol onder die top uitvoerprodukte is. Agbare Speaker, graag betuig ek my dank en waardering vandag aan Arisa wat vandag hier in die huis is. Hierdie uitvoerkwaliteitpryme wat op ons lesenaars geplaas is, word deur Arisa Pakhuis in Swellendam geskenk. Groot dank en waardering aan ons vriende van Arisa. Hierdie is uitvoerkwaliteit. En al hierdie lede wat vandag hier in die huis is, elkeen van julle het al verby die Pakhuis gery. Wanneer u daar in Swellendam in die Suid-Kaap beweeg, dan kyk u regs en u sien Arisa Pakhuis. Vandag word hulle verteenwoordig deur Aline van Rensburg, Madeleine van der Westhuizen en Natasha Greef. Groot dank en waardering. Agbare Speaker, 8 van die 10 belangrikste uitvoerprodukte in die Wes-Kaap het ook 'n landbougrondslag. Vir elke 5% toename in die landbouuitvoerbedryf word 22.000 nuwe werksgeleenthede geskep. Of anders gestel, as ons 5% minder groei verloor ons 22.000 werksgeleenthede. En ek is trots dat die landbouers, die agriwerkers, die bedryf hier daarin suksesvol geslaag het om te verseker dat ons 22.000 werksgeleenthede kan skep met 'n 5% toename. Meer as 50% van Suid-Afrika se landbouuitvoere het sy oorsprong in die Weskaap. Agbare Jinkspeaker, my departement streef voortdurend daarna om dienslewering te verbeter. Ons sal dus deur 'n eksterne evaluering ons verder laat evalueer om die impak van die implementering van marktoegang en ondersteuningsintervensies. Landbou inspireer hoop deur groei en werksgeleenthede en reageer op die dringendheid van die nou. Honorable Deputy Speaker, sustainable resource use management, very important in the Western Cape. This Sustainable Resource Use Management Program provides agricultural support services and land users to ensure that sustainable development and management of natural resources happens here in the Western Cape. And therefore, pleased that while we are doing so, we are also creating hope for our youth. For example, out of the 1,204 jobs created during 2022-2023, more than 50% were taken up by the youth. The department will then continue to support and strengthen the operations of the Lower Olifants River Water Use Association. Through this, the department can improve water security in 9 towns in Matikama in the West Coast, serving a regional population of 73,000 people, 860 farms, and providing irrigation water to agriculture spanning more than 12,000 hectares. Honourable Deputy Speaker, agriculture is inspiring hope through growth, jobs, and by responding to the urgency of now. Honourable Deputy Speaker, agricultural producer support and development in the Western Cape will continue to be implementing the commodity approach as a strategy for farmer support across the value chain. This partnership with commodity organizations represented here today in the House support and refer to land reform farmers. Key to this process is facilitating access to markets and mentorship support provided to land reform farmers by commodity organizations. Honourable Deputy Speaker, successful land reform must happen for us to have sustainable agriculture and a sustainable future in South Africa. And that must happen when people have access to natural resources, skills, mentoring, blended financing, technology, market. And so, for me, they must make money. This is what we do in the Western Cape. Grain farmer again, Alfreda Mars, and I visited her. Table grape farmer Warren Bum and citrus farmer Piet Smith are also with us today. Can they please stand? They're not here. I'm grateful. Thank you for your support. I'm also pleased that our partnership with Grain SA, and they have an exhibition downstairs, will also find expression in another edition of the Western Cape's most significant agriculture show, Nampo Cape. Last year, 32,640 guests visited Nampo Cape over 4 days to visit more than 500 exhibitors. This is phenomenal in the Overberg region, represented by the Mayor Saki Franken here today. I'm looking forward to welcoming members of this House, both sides. Also, Mr. Shaun August, I'm waiting to welcome you at Nampo Cape in September this year. It is something you must attend. Thank you, Honourable Member Pat Moran. I know you always attend it. I'm looking forward to receive you again there. By the way, the Mayor will receive you. Also, the success stories underscores the Western Cape government and the commodity organization's commitment to fostering redress and equity. And Honourable Deputy Speaker, Pels, through Lennox and Gerard, has fundamentally transformed land reform, not only in the Western Cape, but across South Africa. I want to salute them because they didn't arrive with a single model. They built and construct through experience They build a framework. So depending on the commodity, depending on the situation, depending on your product, your history, your blended financing system, and your irrigation access, and your experience, they build a framework to plug and play according to your needs. I salute Pels for active land reform. And for those who are wondering, PEL stands for Partnership in Agriculture Land Solutions. And these are real solutions taking forward land reform in this country. Honourable Deputy Speaker, land reform success in the Western Cape is not just a matter of statistics. Sometimes I can quote statistics here about it, and I know my honourable member loves the statistics that I quote, but it is more than statistics. It is about making a difference in the lives of people, and that is what PELS is doing. But Honourable Deputy Speaker, on the advice of my head of the department, Dr. Sebo Petse, an outstanding HOD leading my department, I was advised that we need again to do an external impact and design evaluation of our services and land reform from beneficiaries. So we are not immune from external evaluations. We are also not immune from critique. We are happy to do that, because when we get that external evaluation and we do certain things that can be improved better, we are going back to the drawing board, because we are disciples of the learning organization. And we will fix it. And we will encourage anything that you know that we can fix, but we fix it through science, through data, and through evidence, not in political rhetoric or macaroni without cheese. Honourable Deputy Speaker, veterinary services. I think members of this House will know that there is a crisis in South Africa in veterinary services. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the veterinary services team continue to expand the rabies footprint because the province is a densely populated area. Tannie Poppy, ons praat nou van die rabies, van die diere en van die honde vooral. And therefore, vaccination campaigns will continue to ensure that the Western Cape stays rabies-free and its citizens are protected. The campaign also promotes a heightened awareness of animal disease and their risks to citizens. Honourable Deputy Speaker, as announced last year, we have committed 23 million rand, and I want to thank the Minister of Finance, the Premier and the Western Cape Cabinet, because we have now allocated 23 million rand to revamp and refurbish the Provincial Veterinary Laboratory. I can confirm that the work has already started, progressing well, and I want to thank the Minister of Infrastructure and the support of his department, because we will inaugurate that new vet lab in November 2023. Thank you, Dr. Jin. Thank you, Dr. Ilse. Your team are doing great work. Our veterinary public health officials continue to render comprehensive orders of food-producing outlets, utilizing the hygiene assessment scheme as a tool. Doing so reduces food poisoning, increase food shelf life, and improve public health. Deputy Speaker, in line with my commitment to focus on biosecurity and animal health, I will now announce that I plan to have the first Western Cape Provincial Veterinary Services Week ever in this province during the month of September. There's lots of work. I want to thank my colleague and friend, Mr. Noka Masipa, Member of the National Parliament, for driving the issue of biosecurity. It is through the conversations that I had with you, with Agri-Western Cape, Agri-SA, that I've now decided we need a more dedicated, more specific focus, a week-long focus on veterinary services. Agbare Speaker, ek is ernstig en diep bekommerd oor die dreigende krisis wat veroorsaak word deur die nasionale regering se versuim om te voldoen in die aanvraag na enstowwe vir vee. Meeste enstowwe wat vir vee in Suid-Afrika teen siektes moet beskerm, word by die staatsbeheerde onderneming onderste poot biologiese produkte geproduseer. Agbare Speaker, die tekort aan enstowwe vir vee kan 'n negatiewe impak hê op vleis en suiwel en voedselketting en die welstand van die betrokke diere. Dat kan, agbare spreker, lei tot die toename in die verspreiding van siektes. Sekere bystand en verligtingsprogramme sal boere en diere eienaars verskeie wetlike vereistes noodgedwonge moet oortree as gevolg van die krisis. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Premier said that this government is data-led and evidence-based, and so we are doing research and drive our research agenda. Honourable Deputy Speaker, more than 100 young delegates attended the first Climate Change and Agriculture Youth and Young Researchers Convention, successfully hosted in 2022 in Elsenburg. And thank you, Dr. Ilse. I watched the videos, I read the reports of that intervention. It was so successful that this event for the youth and climate change will now be repeated in this financial year. Honourable Speaker, 150 delegates from 18 countries attended the 10th International Symposium on Irrigation of Horticultural Crops. South Africa showcased its experience in irrigation farming to international visitors and scientists. I'm happy to announce today that preparations are now underway in my department for the 9th World Congress on Conservation Agriculture to be held in June 2024 in Cape Town. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Western Cape Department of Agriculture commissioned the development, and I think Honourable Member Moran will appreciate it, that we have now developed the Western Cape Cannabis Framework and the Implementation Plan, also known as CAN Plan, for the agricultural sector. I'm happy to announce that this plan, Honourable Deputy Speaker, has been finalized, and this plan, I will release it tomorrow on the 29th of March. I want to thank Dr. Ilse, who led that process of developing the CAN Plan. The plan identifies initiatives for the development in other provincial departments, laying the foundation for a supportive approach and linking it to the National Cannabis Master Plan. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this government also believes in partnerships and collaboration, and so the agreement between the Western Cape Department of Agriculture and the California Department of Food and Agriculture has led to various interactions, and I want to thank my colleagues, Dr. Dirk Trotsky and Asia Peterson, for the work that they have been doing, and Dr. Ilse Trautmann and the climate change team, and Dr. Sebo Petse leading the discussions on what I've proposed to the Minister of Agriculture in Sacramento, in California, is to bring together a Mediterranean agriculture working group on climate change, which can open up new research and opportunities. I think members of this House will know that California and the Western Cape are both Mediterranean regions. And there are only 5 Mediterranean regions in the world, and therefore we represent 40% of the world's Mediterranean agricultural regions combined with California. And so we are looking forward through the whole of society and the whole of government approach to work together with the University of Stellenbosch, with the School of Climate Studies, and we will partner with the Department of Local Government, my sister department, as well as the Department of Environmental Affairs. Honourable Deputy Speaker, let me now turn to agricultural economics. The Western Cape worked tirelessly and to strengthen land reform, domestic market access for our producers. One example is La Gracia, based in the Garden Route District Municipality, which attained the SA GAP certificate in the year June 2022. Apart from learning that the agribusiness La Gracia produces safe food, the certification has led to the buyer issuing a letter of intent to purchase gooseberries valued at 712,000 rand. Agribusinesses, Heim-X Cooperative Limited, has benefited from the department's financial record keeping program. When joining the program, this Heim-X Cooperative Land Limited had no financial resources and no financial statements and no records. As a result of our training course, they are now complying with statutory requirements such as UIF, pay as you earn, value-added tax. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is significant if you believe in internal resource mobilization as a financial instrument. Today, Heim-X Cooperative Limited has a sound financial record-keeping system and complies with UIF, pay-as-you-earn, and value-added tax. The director, Dorothy Joseph, is thrilled because he indicated that the business can now make sound financial decisions and has managed to access funding using the financial statements he received through this program. Honourable Deputy Speaker, market access is critical for us, and we are now also on the export platform for countries like China, Angola, Ghana, Nigeria, Uganda, and Kenya. Those were developments in 2022. But we are now looking forward because we have already established delegations of 18 companies to Accra in Ghana in West Africa. But the highlight of this initiative, Deputy Speaker, is Ubuntu extra virgin olive oil, which managed to secure a deal worth of 27 million rand, facilitated by my colleagues in the Department of Agriculture. Ubuntu extra virgin olive oil has benefited from the department's product development, compliance, marketing, support services, and the Agri-Hub at Elsenburg. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Agri-Processing on Wheels was launched last year in February 2022. As a result, approximately 238 existing and expiring agri-processors has been capacitated through that process. One of the words of one of these people that benefited said, with the agri-processing skills that I've acquired during the capacity building sessions at Elsenburg, I now know that I can move into developing new products using different processes that can take my garden to a full developed business. Honourable Deputy Speaker, let me now turn to agriculture, education and training. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I am pleased here because today we have updated a document. Members have received it right in front of them, an updated version of the department's looking into the future of 30 careers in agriculture. And this was today handed over to me by the HOD, Dr. Mogale Sepopetse. And I have now also asked my department to also make it available in the House. And I'm so thankful that honourable member and my friend is reading through a very important book. There's a career opportunity. If your politics is a short career, Mr. August, if you no longer want to be in politics and you get tired, that booklet will give you and me a post-political career access opportunity to study agriculture. Because we need another job after this, and agriculture can benefit from us as farmers. I have the technical, conceptual, analytical, historical, practical, normative experience in this House.
Order.
Maar, Jung Speaker, kan ek daar die vraag skriftelik beantwoord?
Asseblief.
Want daar's baie detail.
Ja, dat is fijn.
Maar, Jung Speaker, Elsenburg Landbouopleidingsinstituut gaan voer op landbouopleiding en ontwikkeling vir die jeug te verskaf deur die fasilitering van formele en nie-formele opleidingsprogramme. Ek is baie trots op wat daar gebeur by die opleiding college, maar ons is ook nou baie opgewonde dat Sipa Balwe Kamlashe, 'n B-Agric student by Elsenburg, hy het ook nou 'n kontrak onderteken met Toyota, die Vrystaat, Cheetahs onderteken om ook 'n professionele rugbyloopbaan te begin as student van Elsenburg. As gevolg van ons internasionale interaksie het ons ook 4 studente vanaf 27 Junie verlede jaar tot 8 Julie verlede jaar aan 'n internasionale studietoer na Nederland deelgeneem as deel van die ooreenkoms met die Universiteit van Stellenbosch en die Nederlandse Universiteitsstigting vir internasionale samewerking, ook bekend as NAFIC, wat in tuinbou spesialiseer. Die voorsitter Stefanus Herbold en ondervoorsitter van die SR en Emma Klaasen sluit ook vandag by ons aan. Elsenburg plays a very significant role also in the education in the wine industry. Therefore, I'm glad to confirm that the rehabilitation of the Elsenburg vineyards is continuing and new cellar equipment is being procured for student training. Akbar Jung Speaker, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I now welcome Mr. Nigel Claassen to please stand because he is the Western Cape Agri Worker of 2022. Thank you, Mr. Nigel Claassen, and thank you, Councillor Rita Andreas, because the best agricultural worker of this province has recently returned from the Netherlands and he returned from Germany. And during a media interview on his return from the Netherlands and Germany, Nigel said that the experience made him realize how competitive, how global fresh produce value chain is. And I quote, he said, I also learned the significance of improving market share by staying relevant with the latest trends and technology. As a result, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Nigel Claassen was inducted by the Deputy Director General, Mr. Daryl Jacobs, into the Western Cape Agri Prestige Workers Forum, and he's now a full member in December 2022. And I want to thank the Premier because he was inducted into the Western Cape Prestige Agri Worker Forum at the official residence of the Premier. We salute Mr. Nigel Claassen. Deputy Speaker, our agri workers are highly skilled. This was confirmed during my recent visit to Highgrove Heavens in the Overstrand in the Overberg region. Highgrove farmers grow berries worldwide with farms in the United Kingdom and South Africa. The main crops grown are strawberries and raspberries. I was, however, blown away by the skill displayed by the pickers, who just returned also from spending time in the United Kingdom, outperforming all foreign peers in the industry. Highgrove is today represented by the Managing Director, Sean Tager, and Head of Finance, Anton Munich. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the image of the agricultural sector and the well-being and dignity of agri workers are close to my heart. It is for this reason that I developed the hashtag for the love of agriculture. It is now a global hashtag. I even put the hashtag on a French cold storage truck. I want that in also all over Europe. And any minister now that will travel anywhere around the world, they will get the hashtag sticker. They can also put it on the plane wherever they go. Because wherever they go, Mr. Anton, I want people to love agriculture. The way you love it, the way Alfreda Marsh love it, the way Paul love it, they're from Goederes. We must love agriculture. We are in the business of loving agriculture. And so we are supporting the commodity organizations and agri workers throughout. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I conclude. Honourable Deputy Speaker, therefore I make the key announcements of my budget 2023-2024, 60.844 million to ensure operational support to the department, including human capital, and 5 million is earmarked for upgrading the security services. 134.757 million to promote the sustainable use of management of natural resources. 38 million is earmarked for ecological infrastructure and 18.5 million for river protection. We've seen what has happened now in the last week with rivers and floods. 222.192 million towards producer support. We have an earmark allocation, including cost of 113 million. The Ilima and Letsema of almost close to 60 million, 59.9 million, 27 million, Honourable Deputy Speaker, to Casidra to support the department with the project and the state farm management, 64.15 million to provide for animal health, for me very important, very significant this year to prevent and control diseases. A further 2.5 million goes towards the upgrade of the veterinary laboratory, 103 million goes to improve agricultural production through research, technology and development. 42 million is set aside for research infrastructure and our research farms. We have 7 research farms, well managed, and I want to thank the manager and the leaders of that program, both previously under Dr. Ilse and today under Dr. Chris. And I want to thank them for the work. 57.9 million towards education and training and agriculture skills development, 10 million to enhance the image and socio-economic conditions of agri-workers and their families here in the province, but also 7.6 million rand, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is allocated also to promote and grow the agri-processing initiatives and the value chain. Honourable Speaker, Premier Alan Winde and I also recently attended the inaugural Made in the Cape Expo. The Expo aims to ramp up support for Western Cape exporters, with 30 buyers from around the globe gathering in the Cape Town in the first 3 days of March to meet more than 300 exporters. What struck me, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is that we can do much more in an individual capacity to promote Made in the Cape products. I, for example, use every opportunity to promote the ostrich industry, Made in the Cape. Not only does ostrich meat offer healthy benefits, Honourable Member Mabumbi, very good. No. You make a big mistake. No. That I'll bring him to you. You will be blown away by the product and the meat. I want to invite you for lunch, ostrich meat. You will never eat any other meat. And also, it's very important that you understand Cape Bobotie and ostrich meat were also recently served in the past weekend during a lunch hosted for the King and the Queen of Belgium. They ate ostrich meat, they ate Cape Bobotie, and I'm inviting you to join me for lunch. Honourable Deputy Speaker, agriculture is ready to inspire hope through growth and jobs, responding to the urgency of the now, and it therefore gives me great pleasure to table the Western Cape Department of Agriculture's budget of 960.165 million rand for discussion in this House. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. And I recognise the Honourable Moran.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. Oh, we can
Order, members.
keep my time.
You may go.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. Speaker, before going into my speech, the Premier in his budget vote spoke about water and water security. And the question that begs is, water security for who? This morning in a council meeting in Witzenberg, the DA coalition put forward policy that would limit specific communities to only 6 kiloliters of water per month. Now we know that national government got a water program that speaks to the 6 kiloliters. So they limit a specific community, which is black, colored and Indian, to only 200 liters of water per day and 6 kiloliters per month. And that specific meter that they will install, if you have reached your 6 kiloliters of waters for that month, you either buy, and if you don't have money, you must wait for the next month. 6 kiloliters is free water. Yes, it's free water.
Order, members. Honourable Moran, speak to me.
So,
Order, members.
So, MEC, you also spoke about water. And you don't compliment national government for the investment that they have done in this province. National government, they have committed themselves to spend 3.5 billion, to spend 3.5 billion when it comes to water infrastructure over the next 5 years. Premier, your department, when we entered this 6th Parliament, you stood there and you said that you're not going to wait for national government. You will spend the province money when it comes to the Western Cape. Doesn't matter whether it's a national competency. In that specific year, You budgeted 20 million rand for the Brandfly Dam. When you found out that the people that will benefit, that will mostly be black, you withdraw that 20 million rand. You can answer whether you have drawn the 20 million rand or not. You have withdrawn that 20 million rand. 2 months back, national government completed that particular project. They have spent 21 million rand on that project. And you know what? It will unlock 5,000 hectares of agricultural land. It will create between 5,000 and 10,000 job opportunities. And it will benefit 70% black businesses. Money that you are not willing to spend at a certain point of time. That's the reality. That's the reality. You can deny or admit whether you have withdrawn the 20 million rand that was budgeted for that particular project. Deputy Speaker, only a few days have passed since the farm workers strike in Paarl. Now, MEC, I've heard you have spoken about the Agri-Prestige event and the winner of that space, but I haven't heard you have spoken about the well-being of farm workers in particular. I haven't heard, not once in your speech, speak about housing issues, speak about labor issues. I've heard you have said you have met with many farm worker organizations over the last couple of days. But you haven't met with one farm worker organization. Not one. So when you stood there and spoke, we could clearly see in you a farmer, but not a farm worker. Even if you manage to drive a tractor, you don't speak for farm workers. That's clear. Time and time again, I have stood fighting for these very same people in this house. Agriculture and farm worker-related issues seems to be the middle child of this provincial government, where they are overlooked and left to fend for themselves. In December, I stood here in a very similar setting, raising the issue of farm workers being neglected and how it needs to be addressed. And I will reiterate, farmers as well as farm workers are the responsibility of this agriculture department. These workers have to take to the streets for what is theirs legal right that they are being deprived of. In the committee meeting, the agency specifically asked about the minimum wage increment in relation to farm workers, whether the department supports it or not. And the MEC said a whole bunch of nothing in his response. This comes as no surprise as the Democratic Alliance, Michael Cardo and Jan de Villiers, both of them are in National Parliament, and they are spokespersons for employment and labor, the other one for small businesses, publicly oppose the 9.7% increment of the minimum wage. They are suggesting a 7.9% that will be a reasonable increase. It is very palpable that even though workers play a vital role in the agricultural sector, the DA-led government does not see these workers as of importance. Inequality is insequential to this provincial government, and mitigation measures taken to ease those are harshly affected by inflation and high cost of living. I will not take it as a significant factor. According to a study that was recently conducted on 50 women who work at 18 fair trade certificated farms by Celeste Fortuin, 25% of these surveyed farms have poor or very poor housing for farm workers. 31% of farm workers earn less than the national minimum wage of 25.42 per hour. And it doesn't come as a surprise when a national leader of the DA in the manifesto proposed a minimum wage which is equal to the old age pension grant, which is 1,800. What a shame. 55% of women surveyed are exposed to pesticides in vineyards, frequently or at home, which is not in line with international best practices. 35% of women workers surveyed do not have access to toilet facilities in the vineyards where they work all day long. These are the gruesome conditions that our farm workers have to endure every waking day of their employed lives, a reality that no one should ever experience. We need the department to take affirmative action. Speaker, these matters need to be addressed, and this budget does the exact opposite to that. We are faced with a provincial government that does the bare minimum and express praise for the little they do for the citizens of this province. The DA-led government has failed the farm workers time and time again and continues to fail them to date. The aim of the minimum wage increment of farm workers and domestic workers by the national government was to protect low-earning workers of this country while also providing a platform for inequality reduction. The protest by the DA should speak volumes about this government, which leads me to the oblivion and lack of support for black farmers in this province. The budget, once again, fails to address the issue of black farmers of the Western Cape. In 2021, agricultural exports had a total of 51.8 billion, and when probed about the black farmers' contribution of this astronomical figure, the MEC, Dr. Ivan Meyer, and his department could not provide us with any relevant detail. They tell us they don't know how much black farmers contribute to this figure. They don't have the figures. They are not interested in these figures. And they've admitted it. This suggests that the department does not have any database on nor support African and coloured farmers who benefit the agricultural economy of this Western Cape, as they are unaware of the number of black farmers that exist in the province. Unaware. The Premier at one stage quoted here figures of land reformers in this province. And I've asked the question in the committee meeting, where does the Premier get these figures from if the department don't have any information about how many black farmers are in this province? Thumbs up. In the department's annual performance plan, the MEC on its executive authority statement states that the department has established an excellent track record of working successfully with the various stakeholders of the agricultural sector, which has established partnerships with commercial agriculture, which bring one to assume that with the department not having any information on black farmers in the province, black farmers are not included in these established partnerships. This vote's budget suggests that the DA-led government is supporters of economic exclusion of black people and the continued suffering of exploitation of farm workers. Deputy Speaker, the ANC is concerned that government funds are not invested correctly towards pressing issues in the agricultural sector. The department spends more money in outsourcing employment rather than filling up vacant posts in the department. The budget for outsourcing has increased from 93%, has increased by 90.3%, yet the agricultural skills development has decreased. If a department outsources services, that means they lack the required skill. Why they not capacitate the employees with the relevant skills? The reduction of agricultural skills development budget is a clear indication of the unwillingness of the filling of these posts, something we as the ANC have been concerned about for quite a number of years now. I believe that even the Honourable Van der Westhuizen could agree with us, as you also question the reduction of the educational training budget in an unequal society that has the potential to play a huge role in helping people uplift themselves. This reduction is an interruption in the upskilling of employees to meet the potential where it could play a role in eradicating poverty and inequality. Like the late Tata Madiba once said, and I quote, "Education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of a mine, that the child of a farm worker can become the president of a great nation. It is with that we make out that we have, it is with that what we have, make out of what we have, not that we are given, that separates one person from another." Close quote. This should be the vision and end goal of this country, to develop and to be developed. And therefore, Deputy Speaker, the ANC declines to support this budget bill. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Honourable Kasim, who is online.
Thank you, Speaker.
You may proceed.
Despite the odd changes here and there with the empowering of small groups of black people in the sector It is a reality that after 15 years, agriculture in the Western Cape still remains the same and has not changed, as the ownership patterns of the agricultural sector remain, making it no different to what it was prior to our democracy. The agriculture sector is labor intensive and it can absorb much of our unemployed, who include youth and women. However, agriculture is still monopolized by white people, and the working conditions of our farm workers remain a serious concern, as they are still seen as cheap and disposable labor. I was hoping the minister would speak more to the issues of the actual farm workers and inviting them to the House today instead of praising farm and business owners, because it's a great concern that these poor farm workers who put food on our tables and who enrich our pockets with their blood and sweat are still troubled with poverty when they go home. A majority of them have little benefits and protection despite working for years on these farms. It is also concerning that the DOP system, where workers get paid with alcohol, is still firmly in place in many rural areas. This alone shows us the disrespect and poor treatment that our poor African and colored farm workers, who are also trying to put food on the tables, are getting. When you speak about facilitating farm worker development through partnership and funding via different projects in farm worker communities, be specific and tell us which communities are you referring to? Where and how are you doing it? As many of our farm workers for many years continue to suffer, working long hours for small amounts of money with no benefits, no protection and empowerment. When will this government start taking these poor farm workers serious and protecting them too from abusing the sector? Tell us how many of these farm workers and their children, since governing, has this DA successfully taken back to school so that they too can benefit from the agriculture bursaries available to study in order to later establish their own businesses or to even manage farms in a bid to prevent generational entrapment as unskilled and cheap laborers. Tell us, people with a beautiful story like Tiny Poppy, who's sitting in the gallery today. After today, how will you assist her? And how will you assist the family to grow in this small business? What you have to offer to empower and to grow a business before sending her back home today? Furthermore, the CASP system in its current form, is also failing to address the inequalities of the past. All it did was to enrich land thieves, whereas the true owners of this land are once again still seen as cheap and disposable laborers. And yet nothing is being done to address the continued injustice towards people of this land. So let's ask ourselves, does this CASP system really benefit our farm workers and Black people in general if many are still excluded and struggling? We don't only want transformation, we want justice as well. And when you speak about transformation, tell us once again, how many Black farmers did you help establish over and above? And
Kasim,
the EFF rejects this budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the Honourable Sean August.
Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. Honourable Minister, I've put my speech down. I would like to speak directly to you through the Speaker. I would have loved you to speak about Black empowerment. And I'm not going to repeat what the previous speakers have said. I would like you to look at hashtag Save Our Farm Children. I would like you to, like you said, you want to fix the problems. You've been giving us outputs, what you've been exporting, what you've been exporting to the other countries. I would like to hear through you and the chairperson that on this year coming, we're going to hold you accountable. I would like you to look at hotspots. I would like you to look at where the alcohol syndrome children are born, how the farm schools are benefiting from your department. I would like to hear from you how this child does not see a trekker driver as my future, but to see something else in the agricultural department. I want you to bring that to the table. I want you to talk about the hotspots where the education department and social development and sports plays a role in that specific farm areas, so that we can so that we can ensure that we don't have our children falling into drugs, falling into alcohol, etc. So, Speaker, thank you very much. I would like our our minister to focus on those kind of things, and we will bring that to the dashboards, we will bring that to the talk shops, we will bring that to the engagements on the portfolio. Because in Oudtshoorn, Speaker, we did not, when we asked the questions about the ostrich farming, when we asked about the black children emerging into these programs, we couldn't get proper answers. So that's the reality. I don't want to politic around it. I support your budget, but we need to keep ourselves accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable August. I now recognise the Democratic Alliance, Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I also would like to acknowledge our distinguished guests that we have here today.
Honourable van der Westhuizen, my apologies. I've overlooked Honourable Marais online. Could you please take your seat? Apologies. Honourable Marais, honourable members, give me a second. Honourable members, can I please preside? Can I just check that the Honourable Marais is online?
I'm certainly online.
No. Just Honourable Marais, Honourable Marais, if you just hold on 1 minute, please. To the African National Congress, we have the Speaker has delivered his ruling on this matter. We cannot do any double jeopardy or continue the matter in this is really nothing to do with the vote. The point is that we cannot take this into the vote. This is completely different. So I have to allow the Honourable Marais his rights as a member of this Parliament. Honourable Marais, you may proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister Meyer, who I've known for quite some time, his father too, is certainly very energetic and competent.
Honourable Marais, just 1 minute. Honourable Said, please can you make a decision here? It cannot be that you can drown out. This is really not good. We've got a number of guests here, Honourable Said.
On a point of order.
Honourable Deputy Chief, Honourable Deputy Whip, please can you rule on this matter with your party? Can you rise, please, Honourable Said? Thank you.
Chair, why am I being asked to
because
rise?
You, well, both.
I mean, why am I
because the Chief Whip's not doing anything.
Why am I being singled out to rise?
You may. You can, yes. I'm asking to decide on this because it's no use drowning out. We have an entire sitting.
Deputy Speaker, why would you want us to stand up? Why would you want to address us about this?
I'm saying, we cannot be allowing your party to drown down a speaker. Either you make a decision as the Chief Whip, you control your own party. Can I hear you?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I think you are exerting your power over than it is necessary. I do not see any reason why you would fail to address members who are heckling and you demand that the two of us must be addressed by you instead of you exerting the rules. You the Speaker, sure. I'm not the Speaker of this House.
Yes,
why are you failing to do
you're
your
the Chief
duties?
Whip of the ANC.
No, but you're failing to do your duties.
All I'm saying to you is that we're going to have to let the Honourable Marais speak. And it'll be very unfair. Well then, Honourable Members, I'm terribly sorry, but I am exercising his right as a member to speak. Honourable Bartman, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Chair. I'm rising on 2 points of orders, both on 66 subsection 5, dealing with the fact that we may not challenge a ruling in the House. To my knowledge, we cannot challenge Speaker Dalen Mitchell's ruling.
Honourable members.
And second of all, on terms of Rule 45, yesterday when the respective member refused to abide by the respective ruling, Speaker Mitchell ordered that the respective person leaves the House and the member was withdrawn, and they did withdraw from the House respectively. And therefore, I'm asking that we not go back to challenging the Speaker's ruling previously on this matter in the House, but that it gets referred in terms of Rule 66, subsection 5 accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Honourable Lecker, you have a point of order?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Hello, now.
Honourable Lecker, I can't hear because your members are shouting above you. So maybe it is time to control your party.
Deputy Speaker, I think what is important today is for members of this House not to exploit the rules that we have at hand. As far as I can hear, I don't see any members of the ANC challenging a ruling that was made yesterday. So I think you really need to attend to the issue of heckling instead of the ANC challenging the ruling that was made. So the Deputy Chief Whip at this point is misusing the rules book. Thank you.
So, Honourable Deputy Chief Whip.
Chair, I rise in terms of Section 2 of the Powers and Privileges Act that governs on this provincial parliament. If we are asking a member not to debate, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, Member Philandra might be asked not to debate, Member Maseko might be asked not to debate, so we need to follow the rules of this House. And if there's a challenge on the rulings of Speaker Mitchell, then that must follow the rules of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. The Speaker has indicated that the utterances of the Freedom Front member was unacceptable. A ruling has been made on this matter, and if we wish to challenge the Speaker in this manner, then the correct platform must be followed.
Thank you very much. Before everyone continues, Honourable Kama, I have seen your hand, and honourable members, can I get Honourable Kama to raise his point of order? Honourable Moran, Honourable Nkondlu, Honourable Nkondlu, Honourable Nkondlu, can we just allow Honourable Kama to raise his point of order? Honourable Kama, what's your point of order?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I definitely there is no one who's challenging the rules or the ruling of the Speaker. I don't know where is the Deputy Chief Whip of the DA coming from. But yesterday, Deputy Speaker, the Speaker made a ruling which I think our Deputy Chief Whip immediately even said that we support the ruling of the Speaker. What then transpired is that when the Speaker was giving the ruling, the member became unruly and continued with the utterances that he was making. In that, even breaking many rules. Deputy Speaker, I think you would have to listen to the point that I'm making, as you have listened to what the Deputy Chief of the DA was saying. Because I'm still making a point on the point of order that I'm making, because the member even crossed the line. He was walking as he pleases in the House, moving from one side of the House to the other, not listening to anyone, continuing to offend us and calling us foreigners in this House. And you are expecting us now to just sit here. He does as he pleases. As the Speaker gives the ruling, he walks out of the House. And when he comes back, we must sit here and listen
you have
to him.
to finish
The
off
rules
as
must
a point
also
of order.
protect us. This is a democratic institution that must ensure that it protects the values of our constitution at the very same time. So I think there must be a ruling that you are making in that regard, so that we do not have racists that sit with us here in this House.
Okay, so this is my ruling. First of all, in terms of 66.4, we don't raise points of order on points of order. Secondly, if you are aggrieved with my decision, which is I'm going to allow Honourable Murray to speak as his right as a member in this House until as such as it changes. At the moment, he is a fully fledged member of this House. He receives his salary from this House. So honourable members, I'm going to rule on this, and if any aggrieved member in terms of 66.5 may challenge the ruling, can write to the Speaker or leave the House. We will now proceed to Honourable Murray.
Thank you very much, Speaker.
Honourable members, the ruling is done. It is done. We're moving on. Otherwise, I'm going to have to ask Member Nkondlu that you leave the House, please. Well, you have no choice.
It's not possible that people who are offended
may
here in this House
proceed.
must be the ones that are living.
66.5, Honourable Nkondlu. The ruling is done.
Speaker,
Honourable
Minister
Kondlo,
Meyer,
don't let me have to name you. Then you must leave the House. That's your right. That's your right. Honourable Barnes, I'm not entertaining any further points of order. Sorry, the ruling is done. Ruling is done. Honourable Murray has a right to speak, and he will be given this right to speak today in this House, in front of our guests, in front of Minister Mayer's guests, and we will allow him as a fully fledged member in a democratic society and South Africa under the constitutional rights of his Bill of Rights and the rules of this House. So he will
If they did not take into protection our rights. What are those rights that you're talking about? If you can
I said I'm not going to entertain this point of order unless you have something completely new.
But you can entertain Mare. Say that immediately.
Honourable members, I've ruled on the I've made a ruling. There's no further points of order. Yes, it is. According to what point?
You are inconsistent.
Honourable Nkondlo, please leave the House.
No.
I've now named you. Please leave the House.
No, Deputy
It's
Speaker.
really unacceptable now. Yeah. Honourable members, I'm asking again. You are in front and being witnessed by a lot of people here today. I was not in the House at the time, and that ruling has nothing to do with this moment.
Deputy Speaker, Member Mare does not comply to the rules made by the Speaker. He leaves the House. He gets privilege of speaking. While we are here inside the House, we are not acknowledged. What type of consistency is there?
Honourable Barnes, let's think about this.
Deputy
The Speaker is
Speaker,
not in the
this is
chair at the
unfair.
moment.
Member Mare is benefiting more than us that are here inside the House.
The Member Murray is still a fully fledged
I'm
member
not
of this
speaking to
House.
you yet. I will speak to you. I will talk to you when the time comes. I'm speaking to the Deputy Speaker. You are not in a committee here when.
Honourable members, I'm going to suspend for a few minutes. Thank you very much. The House is suspended.
Protecting racists. Yeah. Then she thinks we're in a
You
committee.
can't allow racists here in this house. This is a constitutional parliament.
It's not gonna work.
Calling black people foreigners.
Yeah.
And then can't be foreigners, yes.
I understand. And this is the DA defending a racist. Using black voters as voting cows.
How can you defend something like that? And then you come and defend that legally, thinking you are in some kind of a committee. It doesn't work like that. No, it doesn't work like that. No, it does not. We are not in your committee here. Stop protecting racists. Stop protecting racists and think we are in your committee. We are not in your committee here. We are not in your committee.
Protecting racists.
Yeah.
Because you don't know the pain.
Enjoying white privilege.
Enjoying white privilege, Nyan. Sis. Yeah.
And then you stand up, defend racism like that. Aye.
It will come back to you here one day. One day.
No.
One day.
She's enjoying the white privilege, that one.
Enjoy your white privilege.
She's enjoying the white privilege.
Enjoy. It will get back to you. No, maar is fijn. Hij deed die ruling graag op een. How do you allow a racist to speak?
It only happens when you're racist yourself.
Yeah, obvious. What do you expect? What better do you expect? So true.
Yeah. Can I go fetch my laptop? Did I post up a Porsche? That's my laptop, bro. I couldn't capisa general racism, yes. I hate racism.
I hate it, Ayanda.
Nyani racism.
And I'm trying to understand the black people.
Seriously?
That is a my laptop. I congratulate you, I don't want to leave the chambers. Can you please ask Portia to take my laptop down here to the
With me asking you to leave the House in terms of Rule 46.1. I did ask you earlier, are you going to comply? All right, honourable member, can you stand up, please? I asked you to leave the House. Are you going to comply?
Why should I leave the House?
I asked you to leave the House.
Why should I leave the House?
There was a reason why I said to you, you should leave the
Yes,
House.
you must put the reason on record. Why should I leave the House?
Honourable member,
I'm asking, I've been here.
I named you a few times and you refused. I named you a few times and you refused. So I'm going to say you're not going to comply.
Why should I leave the House?
All right, in terms of Rule 46(1), if the presiding officer, and I'll read it, the presiding officer is of the opinion that a member's conduct is of serious nature that in order to withdraw from the sitting, either from the chamber or the electronic platform for the remainder of the day's sitting is inadequate, the presiding officer may name that person. Honourable Nkondlu, I name you. I name you.
I am
abusing the rules.
Deputy Speaker, I'm asking you a question. Why am I removed from the House?
Honourable members, please take your seat.
You are abusing the rules. How can someone who reacts to being called a foreigner must leave the House? And the one who calls people a foreigner must remain because he has rights? What is that?
Honourable
that?
Kama.
Yes. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. In terms of your
called a foreigner in their own country must leave the House.
To move
the one who people are foreigners must remain.
Suspended from the service of the House, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Point of order.
Are there any objections to the move? No objections?
Speaker. On a point of order.
Honourable members, in terms of Rule 46(2), the member has been named. Honourable Nkondlu, if the Sergeant of Arms could please escort Honourable Nkondlu out the House.
Deputy Speaker. On a point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Point of order.
No, it's not going to happen. Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, you have to object, but you are looking on the one side. You don't look at us.
Chair, what did the member do?
You are asking for an objection. You are looking at the one side. No objection.
Chair, what did the member do? You are not.
No, you are not consistent, Deputy Speaker.
At all.
Chair.
Protecting racists. Giving them a single right. That's what we are doing now.
Inconsistent defending racism.
You must remain with the racist Peter Marais here. You must remain with him. You agree with him.
Thank you. Honourable members, I would like to now call on Honourable Marais to be able to address or to be able to put his speech forward in front of the House in terms of Vote 11. Honourable Marais, the floor is over to you.
Thank you so much, Speaker. Speaker, Minister Meyer, who I've known for quite some time, and even knew his dad, also Minister of Agriculture, he's certainly very energetic, he's hardworking, he's competent in administering his portfolio, which is a very difficult one. I cannot criticize it, I cannot ask him unnecessary questions, and I won't delay this matter any further. The only thing I would like to say in Afrikaans, Minister, die suksesvolle verkoop en die bemarking van kwaliteitprodukte geproduseer deur breinopkomende boere moet asseblief meer aandag kry. En ek sal graag sien dat hulle produkte bemark word, suksesvol bemark word, deur hulle in te voeg met die bemarking van die produkte van kommersiële boere, gevestigde boere in die kommersiële sektor. Dit is al. Vir die rest is daar nie enige kritiek nie, behalwe dat ek is bly die waterprobleem word aangespreek en dat ons moet ook maak seker dat die kwaliteit van wat hulle produseer van 'n gehalte is wat kompeterend is. Dit is al wat ek wil sê en ek wil net sê veel geluk aan die minister en ek het niks verder om te sê nie. Dankie.
Baie dankie, die achtbare Maree. Thank you very much. I now call on the Democratic Alliance, the Honourable van der Westhuizen. Over to you.
Agbare young speaker. Ek wil my stem by die van die minister voeg deur 'n hartlike woord van verwelkoming terug aan almal wat gekom het om vandag hierdie debat by te woon. Maar ongelukkig as young speaker moet ek ook, en ek dink ek praat namens al my partygenote aan hierdie kant, 'n opregte jammerte uitspreek. Ons skaamte vir dit wat u vandag hier moes ervaar. Ek kan net dink hoe u moet voel dat u belastinggeld gaan vir vertonings soos wat ons vandag hier gesien het. En namens hulle wat ek dink nie beter weet nie, wil ek tog my opregte verskoning aanbied. Vergewe hulle. Ek glo van harte dat hulle tot ander insigte sal kom. Agbare young speaker, the core mandate of the Department of Agriculture is to support and promote agriculture in all its forms in the Western Cape. In order to do this, the Western Cape Department of Agriculture provides a wide range of development, research and support services to the agricultural community in the Western Cape. The agricultural sector stimulates economic growth in the province and plays a major role in creating sustainable job opportunities. Fortunately, the people in this province are able to benefit from the DA difference. That is why we have a lower unemployment rate than other provinces, and that is why job seekers are streaming to this province in search of hope. Unfortunately, many of this department's achievements and intentions are being opposed, even sabotaged by the ANC national government. And we've seen some efforts to sabotage this house here today. Despite this, let me highlight some of the wonderful work of this department. Work that the ANC is opposing through its opposition to the budget of this vote. Firstly, the Land Care Initiative. That has been allocated 74.4 million rand, and that will create 1,000 jobs. Jobs with a composition that will aim to have gender equality, as well as a 2% uptake for disability involvement. Land Care will also empower 5,000 children with environmental awareness drives through the more than 1,000 land care services. Producer support services through a budget of more than 222 million will deliver support to inter alia 13 red meat producers, 2 grain producers, 1 citrus producer, 26 black commercial farmers, and the development of 40 farm assessments. The important extension and advisory services will be allowed through this budget of almost 34 million to be conducting 3,100 farm visits and render mentorship support to 35 projects. The budget for Program 4 will inter alia be used for the department's hygiene assessment system. This tool is to objectively determine legal compliance at our abattoirs. This helps to ensure food safety relating to animal products. We also believe in supporting the private sector, and disease surveillance and monitoring and other related sample testing will often be subcontracted to other laboratories. Chairperson, the Western Cape has thankfully been free from the numerous outbreaks of foot and mouth disease. For this, we need to thank the department, but also our red meat farmers and other players in the district, in the industry. And we have some of our veterinarians here today. I want to applaud the wonderful work that they've been doing to protect the red meat industry in this province. Then, Honourable Deputy Speaker, this proposed budget allocates 10.3 million for the fight against such possible diseases. Research is clearly and rightfully a priority within the department. There's almost 148 million rand allocated towards this program, showing that the department is committed to innovation and technological advances which will increase food security. The drought conditions of the last number of years are testimony of the challenges in the sector, and much of the province's research effort will have to mitigate this in the future. For this reason, a high demand for research and technology development services is continuously experienced in order to assist farmers in sustaining their production against a set of climate change challenges. Research projects and spatial intelligence tools have and will assist in identifying resource limitations and opportunities of the sector. Numerous farmers have expressed their appreciation for the spatial analysis tools such as Farm Mapper with its various overlays. The research efforts will continue to focus on yield increasing and/or cost decreasing climate smart technologies in plant and animal production. Considerable attention is given to alternative crops, which also offer other benefits, for example, less water consumption, as well as the export basket and mix, new value chain avenues for agri-processing and job creation. The Western Cape is unique in its focus on skills development programs and its recognition for the achievements of agri-workers. The proposed budget, which is not supported by the ANC, will offer skills development to 2,500 farm workers. The focus is the provision of education and skills development to youth from all farming sectors, including smallholder, subsistence and commercial farmers, as well as agri-workers to grow knowledge, prosperous and a competitive sector. Yet this House has seen the ANC objecting to a motion to congratulate Mr. Nigel Claassen from Elgin, the winner of the 2022 Prestige Agri-Worker Awards. And therefore, Deputy Speaker, let me formally convey the Democratic Alliance's congratulations to Mr. Claassen on a wonderful achievement. He joins a special group of past winners in the Prestige Agri-Worker Forum. The blended learning program of the department combines theory with applied practical, authentic work experience on a farm or with an agribusiness, and online learning through which competencies can be applied. Overall, almost 58 million will be allocated to this program, split with 48 million towards higher education and training and 10 million for agricultural skills development. The Rural Development Program will continue its service delivery to agri-worker households and rural farming communities through the referral system utilized to ensure access to services. The inadequate rural safety and security offered by the national government through the South African Police Services remains a threat to farmers and agri-workers in the agricultural sector. The high level of crime perpetuated against farmers, agri-workers and farming communities poses a significant threat to agricultural growth and jobs for rural people and requires urgent attention from all sectors of government. In this regard, the program will be implementing various measures in collaboration with SAPS and other relevant stakeholders in order to facilitate a safe, protected and secure agricultural environment and farming community. The program also fosters the strengthening of partnerships with safety structures in the districts, as well as other stakeholders and government departments to promote a safe and protected agricultural environment. These are just some highlights of the department's work. Deputy Speaker, let me show you how the national government under ANC rule is unfortunately sabotaging the dreams of millions of South Africans. It is even sabotaging its own plans, as I will show. In 2011, the ANC government published the National Development Plan. This plan was intended to address the lack of social-economic rights of South Africans, the very social-economic rights that the leader of the opposition spoke about yesterday. The National Planning Commission was led by senior ANC politicians. It was chaired by the former Minister of Finance, Mr. Trevor Manuel, and the deputy chair was later to become the state president, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. This plan of more than 444 pages was widely welcomed. Even us, as the official opposition in Parliament, despite some points of criticism, by and large endorsed the key targets and implementable action steps in the plan. These were intended to lead millions of South Africans from poverty and unemployment to greater employment and prosperity. The plan was to create an additional 11 million jobs in the economy and to decrease unemployment to 6% by 2030. If effectively implemented, the plan would be able to achieve similar results than the so-called New Deal that the USA developed under former President Roosevelt after the Second World War. Unfortunately, the ANC government, in an act of sabotage, soon after turned its back on this plan. And I'm going to highlight just one example. This plan, the National Development Plan, devoted a full chapter, Chapter 5, to the transition to a low-carbon economy. This is needed to mitigate the potential devastating effects of climate change. And we are already seeing the negative effects of climate change in the form of deadly floods, but also prolonged droughts. Climate change will completely change the face of agriculture in our farms. Yet despite setting a clear path towards a low-carbon economy, the ANC chose to ignore that path. And we've heard the leader of the opposition earlier today, again, defending the coal-fired power stations and criticizing the move towards renewable energy. This move towards a lower carbon economy with its benefits and international subsidies is being sabotaged by our ANC Minister of Mineral Affairs and Energy with his opposition to renewable energy sources. It is further sabotaged by plans to bring fossil fuel-driven power ships for electricity generation for the next 20 years to South Africa. The National Development Plan also planned to create 1 million additional jobs in agriculture. Yet that plan is also being sabotaged by the job-killing policies of the ANC. The plan stated that land reform should be undertaken in a way that will unlock the potential, and I quote, for a dynamic, growing and employment-creating agricultural sector. It proposes a more rapid transfer of agricultural land to black beneficiaries without distorting land markets or business confidence in the agribusiness sector. Again, the ANC government is sabotaging this ideal. The ANC government has been decreasing the budgets available for land reform for a number of years now. And still, the Honourable Moran is ignoring the fact that land reform is a national mandate in terms of our constitution. He is trying to blame the ANC's failures on that of the Western Cape. What we all know, however, is that due to the Western Cape government's support and the hard work of this department, that the success rate of land reform in the Western Cape is the highest in the country. May I remind the Honourable Moran, where he is probably watching online, that it was his minister that admitted in the National Assembly that the national success rate of land reform was as low as 10%. And I shudder to think what the rate would have been without the positive contribution of the Western Cape. The ANC government is still sabotaging the business confidence in the agribusiness sector by its efforts to change the expropriation legislation in order to allow government to grab private assets. This uncertainty caused, the uncertainty caused by this had a devastating effect on investments, the banking sector, and eventually economic growth. Speaker, we've seen the effects of large-scale corruption and sabotage at Eskom power stations, to the extent that even the army had to be deployed to try and protect our country's electricity generation capacity. Electricity is important. No, it is essential for labor-intensive farming practices. The inability to provide the South African economy with a reliable source of electricity is sabotaging our farmers' ability to produce food and to create jobs. Is the meager 2,000 jobs, while welcomed, created amongst the 8 ANC-run provinces during the last quarter of 2022, not a sign of just how severe the influence of the ANC sabotage on the National Development Plan is? The continued failure of the ANC government to start construction of the work on the Clan William Dam is sabotaging the creation of more than 5,000 jobs. And let me remind this House that 80% of the additional water allocations were promised to emerging farmers for land reform. Now, if I must use the Honourable Moran's narrative, we must then today deduct that the delays in the construction of the Clan William Dam is because the ANC don't want those 80% additional water to be allocated to emerging farmers. If not, I would love to hear from him what then are the reasons for this delay. And what about the failure not only to concentrate on the increase in the dam wall height, but also the distribution network for water downstream from the dam? Because water in a dam is only a potential. To realize the full potential of that, you need to distribute it to where it is highly needed. And this Standing Committee on Agriculture and Environmental Affairs paid a visit to the community of Ibn Yezer in 2022. This successful land reform and land claim initiative is reliant on water. They are sitting on high potential soils, but they need water to really unlock the full potential of the land that was given back to them. Now their prospects are being sabotaged by the ANC government's lack of support and inability to plan ahead and to bring water to them. Their prospects are not only sabotaged by the delays in providing the water, but also by cutting the budgets for the support of emerging farmers. And it was heartwarming when we engaged with that community to hear that they actually spoke of themselves as die uitsoekkind van die Wes-Kaapse Departement van Landbou, die voortrekte kind. And they said they could just pick up the telephone and ask for support, and the next moment the Department of Agriculture of the Western Cape would be there, giving them the support they needed. I think the department deserves an applause for that. Then, the Honourable Maran also referred to the canal running from the Holsloot River to the Brandvlei Dam. After years of pressure, and after the Western Cape took the initiative to remove all obstacles and to obtain all the rights needed, it still took the National Department of Water Affairs and Sanitation 3 years to start construction on the rising of the banks of the Holsloot Canal. A relatively small construction project, initially budgeted for at 20 million. And again, as we now also see with the work in terms of the upgrade of the Koeberg nuclear plant, again, the work was running late. We missed the opportunity to divert last winter's water runoff to the Brandvlei Dam. And as the Honourable Maran quite rightly said, this project was only completed in the summertime, some 2 months ago. Landowners that were hoping to benefit from this project, again, are still anxiously waiting for the National Department to allocate the additional water rights. And without the water rights, no investment, no job creation can take place. And again, the dreams of more than 5,000 job seekers have been sabotaged by the poor political leadership of the ANC. Last year, the rainfall was too low to fill the Clanwilliam Dam. Farmers and the communities downstream are lamenting the enormous volume of water that flowed unharnessed to the sea in the previous year's rainy season. If the Clanwilliam Dam had been completed in 2015-16 as originally planned, the surplus water would have been enough for the farmers to receive their full quotas this year. Instead, they are only receiving 41% of their quotas, despite having to pay as if they are receiving their full quotas. I want to ensure the people of Matsikama, of Ibn Yezer, just as we kept up the pressure on the construction of the Holsloot Canal, we will keep up the pressure for the construction work at the Clanwilliam Dam. The DA will not relinquish. This project is too important, and the money spent on the upgrading of the N7 road cannot be in vain. And if these are not enough reasons, the dangers of the aging existing dam wall are too high to abandon this important project. We will also keep up the pressure for the increase in the wall height of the Buffeljas Dam. This dam will also allow extensive farming practices to be turned into labor-intensive farming and again create thousands of much-needed jobs. The National Development Plan stated that 1 in 5 children are suffering from malnutrition, and that malnutrition is directly linked to food insecurity. Unfortunately, the ANC is trying to sweep this serious problem under the carpet. A medical doctor at a public hospital that expressed their concerns about this during the COVID-19 pandemic was threatened with disciplinary action by ANC cadres. The poor policies of and lack of performance by the ANC national government has led to food price currently standing at 13.6% year on year. This is twice the percentage increase that most employees stand to receive this year. And it's the poor that is the most vulnerable to such price increases. It's those already struggling to get by that are exposed to malnutrition. And again, the ANC is making life harder for the poor. Deputy Speaker, despite the national ANC government putting all kinds of obstacles in the way of economic growth and job creation, specifically for the agricultural sector, the Western Cape Department of Agriculture has been working hard in supporting farmers to feed the nation, to earn valuable foreign valuta, and to keep the costs of food down. The ANC's threats of expropriation are meant to disguise their utter failure at successful land reform. All it achieves is to scare potential investors to invest in farms and agribusinesses. This is economic sabotage. What do you call it when South African exported fruit is stuck for weeks in the Cape Town harbour and then need to be destroyed at its intended destination because the delays have led it to rot? What do you call it when farmers suffer economically due to poor harbour management and maintenance? And what must we call it when some farmers have to retrench workers due to losses caused by such government failures? This is sabotaging the Western Cape's efforts to improve the lives of South Africans. Speaker, I conclude. As you would have seen, this department deserves not to be undermined. It deserves our respect and support, and I'm therefore proud to say that the Democratic Alliance supports this budget. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now call on the Honourable Minister Mayor.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The Premier has just advised me, since there was a discussion about water and the importance of water for agriculture, that 7% of the people in South Africa have no water. It's a responsibility of the national government of water affairs. In Nguza Hill, 77% of the people have no access to water. In Port St. John's, 77% no access to water. Winnie Madikizela municipality, no water. Nyandeni, ANC municipality, 66% no water. Nongoma, 61% no water. 7% of the population in South Africa have no water. It equates to 4 million people. This is from the report from the Department of Water and Sanitation that is run by this government. And so it is shocking that people speak about water to the Premier when this picture is under their own management. And so, Tannie Poppy, during the break, asked me, die mense wat nou so uitgestap het, gaan hulle betaal word. Sy is bekommerd, want sy sê as sy nie werk nie, kry sy nie geld nie. En sy, Dr. Ilse, is erg bekommerd dat mense nie opdaag vir die werk nie, want in Lensburg as jy nie opdaag nie, gaan jy nie betaling kry nie. So agbare speaker, van Tannie Poppy na u kantoor, mense wat nie werk nie, moenie betaal word nie. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I'll be brief because I understand the other activities. Farm worker, this province is the only province in South Africa that have a farm worker, dedicated farm worker support program. No other province has a farm worker program. No other province has an outstanding, world-class agri-worker of the year. No other province sends an agri-worker abroad for a week, gets support. No other province has a program to induct a worker into a Western Cape Prestige Agri Worker Forum that advises the Minister on agri matters that was raised by Honourable Member. I am absolutely not going to listen to COSATU. I listen to the agri workers. They are my advisors on housing. When I met with them at Leeuwenhof, I asked them, what are the matters you want to bring under the attention of the Minister? And exactly, Honourable Member August, and thank you for pitching up for work. Your salary is safe. You work for your money, unlike our colleagues over here. Those matters that you brought under my attention, it's exactly what they discussed. And I will go back to my notes because I need to have some follow-ups exactly on the matters that you raised. And thank you for your support. Nigel Claassen returned from Europe. Show me any other province where you get this. Youth in the rural, we provide bursaries for 30 students yearly, 120 agricultural graduates, also appointed on a contract for 2 years to make sure that our workers, also our youth in the rural areas, get an opportunity. Now this 20 million about the Brandvlei Dam. I was the Minister of Finance when the department came to me, Dr. Trotsky, and he said, Minister, we know this is a national government's responsibility, but we don't get any joy from the national government. Please, can you make money available for the lifting of the Brandvlei Dam, Heini, by 30 centimeter to release water for 4,000, almost 5,000 hectare under irrigation? I said, well, let me go and see. I closed my eyes. I took money away from them, these ministers, from their budget, and I put it aside to fund a national government incompetent. So I put it aside and say, let's get on with the job, because the Premier said there's urgency. Tani Poppy, so I made the 20 million rand available. I took it from schools, from hospitals, from libraries, and said, let's get on with the job. And then the national government, toe raak hulle skaam hy nie. Toe sê hulle, nee, julle kan nie ons werk doen nie. Meyer of Swellendam. So they said, no, you can't do the job. Don't give the money. So we didn't. We didn't not spend the money. Hulle het skaam geraak dat ons gaan hulle job doen. So they said, no. So I think people must have the facts. And by the way, Heini, they planned for the budget for 51 million. Now, you know how the ANC works. The thing cost 20 million, 50 million. Die projek se naam is Gatsak toe. The Premier now confirmed to me, Heini, as the Vice President of Agri Western Cape, die projek het toe net 14 miljoen rand gekos. Hoekom? Ons het hulle gewatch. This government don't sit on the job, they serve on the job. And I want to thank Dr. Trotsky and the team. Asya was there with me. They're doing outstanding work. So in August, thank you for your contribution. En dankie dat u die begroting ondersteun vir al die fokus wat die plaas op die jeug, landelike gebiede, arme mense. And Honourable Member August, I have also appointed Jackie Pandaram. She's now responsible for rural development, and those matters that you raised falls under her jurisdiction. But if you have any other matters that you want to bring under my attention, if you are not available, please make direct contact with her, because we have open government, access government. You don't have to work through me. You can contact her directly, and she is very, very competent. And Minister Marais has also now just informed me and reminded me, by the way, that she also has a Western Cape farm worker sport competition, farm workers in various areas taking part in sport, but she also has a Western Cape cultural committee for rural areas. So there's also some work that she's doing, and we appreciate the work that she's doing. Well, Honourable Deputy Speaker, you know my law of politics. You can make a noise or you can make an impact. On that side of the House, we saw the noise. On this side of the House, you will see the impact through the budget, and you will see the leadership through the Premier. Thank you, Honourable Member van der Westhuizen, for supporting the budget. And recently, I visited Klein Goederust. What an outstanding leader in agriculture. A man that was a farm worker himself, had a dream and had a vision to own a farm. But his vision was not inspired by a handout from a government. As a young boy, he had the vision and the dream to own a farm. But he said that vision must become real because of my mother's investment in my thinking and in my culture and in my upbringing. And he took that vision and he connected that vision with his passion. And today he's the owner of a farm where he got a loan, he's repaying the loan, he made connection with farmers, he got support from my department, but 80% is passion, interest, honesty, hard work, dedication, and discipline. And I, over this weekend, took some members of the Parliament of Baden-Württemberg to visit his wine estate. And there was a professor that knows wine from around the world. And he tasted the wine and the quality of the wine of Paul. Paul, I think you must stand. Because the leader of the delegation, Professor Eric Zwijkaart, is an academic. He said he will try to write up an article in what is called the FAZ, which is the Frankfurt Allgemeine Zeitung, the newspaper, and he will now appear in that newspaper in Frankfurt, in Germany. But I said not only that, I gave the department is producing, and Dr. Ilse is also part of the editorial committee of AgriProbe, and I said, Professor Zwijkaart, can we also have an article about the farm and the visit of Paul in the AgriProbe? And I gave him a copy, and he said he will do that. And Paul currently does not export to that part of the world. In fact, all the wine is produced locally, consumed locally. But I have a dream and a vision that the wine must be also in the Parliament of Baden-Württemberg. And today, I want to request you and the Speaker, who will be visiting the Baden-Württemberg Landtag on the 12th of July this year, also to take 2 bottles of wine from Klein Goederust, 1 white wine and 1 red wine, and give it to the Speaker in the Landtag. Because what we want is to brand the wine, brand our product, create market access, exactly what Mr. Peter Marais was talking about, creating opportunities for our people. One of the farm workers that he worked with and played with as a boy and as a farm worker's son is now the winemaker on the farm. Now what we need is stories of hope, but not stories of missing in action. Because Tannie Poppy's question is real. Will they get a salary for not working? Because people on that day are people that understand the business, the economy, and how you must work hard, like Alfreda Mars, like Paul, like people from Arisa, like Heine and the team. People that knows what it is to work. And so, as I conclude, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I am not perturbed I am not disappointed by the behavior of this people in this House. This is typical, the behavior of an outgoing government in South Africa. So don't go there, check. Outgoing governments always behave like this. There's a man that will be part of a future government. He's sitting. He won't be out. And so I want to thank you for your presence. And so the behavior of an outgoing government, Tannie Poppy, I know you're going back to Laingsburg and you say, my sjoe, die mens was ongeskik in die Kaap. Tannie Poppy, die boodskap wat u moet daar oordraas, dit is die gedrag, die manifestering van 'n regering wat tot sy einde gekom het en die pad het byster geraak en daarom bring u lig van Laingsburg in hierdie huis. Hier is as gevolg van u teenwoordigheid is hier meer lig. U eenvoud bring meervoud. En ek wil vir Aletta sê dankie vir wat u vandag gedoen het. Honorable Deputy Speaker, Chief Whip, Premier, members of the Cabinet, Chairperson of my standing committee. A minister is only as good as the support he gets from his family, ministerial staff, and my departmental officials. And therefore, I'm very thankful to my wife. She will ask me tonight what happened in the House. I will tell her the same story. This is the behavior of an outgoing government. So thank you to my wife, Aiza, my sons, Ivan and William, for their love and the support. To the head of my office, Marieke van Jaarsveld, my media liaison officer, Daniel Johnson, sitting there at the back, my private secretary, Samain de Vos, for their professional dedication, Zotto Mdingi, Cleo Forsdijk, Leslie N. Diergaard, and Nicolene Hill. Thank you for your contribution for the smooth running of my office and the Ministry of Agriculture. It is indeed a busy office, but with your joy and happiness and work ethic, it is a pleasure to serve. I'm also gratitude goes to my head of the department, Dr. Sebo Petse, my DDGs, Daryl Jacobs, Dr. Ilse Trautmann, my CFO, Floris Huishammer, all my senior managers sitting here, and I want to say to them, this is the best team leading in agriculture. But because this is an outgoing government, there will be expertise to serve the new incoming government in South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much to the Honourable Minister. That concludes the debate on agriculture. Before we suspend the House, the guests of Minister Mayer are requested to please join the Ministry in the members' dining room for some refreshments. Honourable members, I'm going to break for lunch until 14:15. So 2:15, the bells will ring, and we will then begin the third order of the day. The House is suspended.